My husband of 20 years is cheating on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. I, 41F, am a stay-at-home mom. My husband, 48M, whom we'll call Paul, works in finance. We have been married for nearly 20 years. We have 2 kids, whom we'll call Eric, our 18-year-old son, currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are both the lights of my life. My marriage with my husband has grown somewhat stale over the years for a myriad of reasons, such as his work schedule and how I've aged poorly since we first met. Our son, Eric, has a girlfriend, 18F, whom he's been dating since they were freshmen in high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She's his first love, and she's someone I've always considered as family. This makes the whole situation emotionally excruciating for me. Last week I inadvertently saw my husband's phone screen and got a glimpse of a text thread between my husband and Amy, our son's girlfriend, and I read what looked like a message of her telling him that she misses sucking his cock. I froze in place, in complete disbelief. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I must have misread what I saw. However, I didn't misread it because, over the last several days, I discovered a file on his computer filled with tons of BDSM porn. He clearly has a porn addiction. He also has saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed, it was still the proof I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments and saw more of their interactions. I wish I had never looked. They were filled with mean, horrible things said at my expense, with him constantly comparing me to her. He would call me fat and old, among other things, with Amy LOLing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul has been cheating on me, but never in a million years could I have fathomed something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that I know wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye to it, being naive and acting like it was maybe our daughter's, even though that made zero sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm completely devastated. I don't even think words can adequately describe the dread, anger, shock I feel right now. I'm totally overwhelmed on how to handle this because obviously action needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychic blow this will be for my son. I have no idea how to even broach this completely fucked up topic with him. I wouldn't wish this predicament on my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this scumbag in the first place. And then my mind started to race, realizing that I started noticing specifically unusual behavior from him around the same time Amy turned 18. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? There's so many layers to all of this, and I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread about it all. None of it makes any fucking sense. How did this happen? Am I that much of a stupid idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I haven't confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first about this. I share my story not for sympathy, but in search of understanding and perhaps advice from those who might have had to grapple with deep betrayal. Thank you for listening. Comments. Commenter 1. Take screenshots of everything. Hire an attorney. Get your business in order. Send the pics of messages to her parents. File for divorce. Tell son. Get counseling for you and children. Reply. One thing that is dawning on me harder than ever now, is the trust issues my son will inevitably have going forward in future relationships. The amount of rage and anger I have towards my husband can't be described in words. Update. I am divorcing my husband because he cheated on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. I'm using pseudonyms for confidentiality. I shared a situation a few days ago on another subreddit involving my 41F husband, Paul, 48M, our children, Eric, 18M, and Mary, 15F. I discovered that Paul was having an affair with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend, Amy. My son has been dating her since they were freshmen in high school. My brother connected me to a very tough junkyard dog-type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from my cloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk, it was hard to stomach, completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things said about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18 to 22 or so. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums, and he spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits which looked kind of like a girl's Catholic school uniform and a French-maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school, and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense something was awry when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation, and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months ago, like on my husband's cloud, almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details with what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also non-stop insistent that their friendship only became romantic physical recently, and before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty, he had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy, justifiably so, of course. Mary is recollecting moments and times she watched her dad interact with her friends, and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself, and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever. Comments. Commenter. Keep him away from your son. This would annihilate me if my dad did this. That is an insane betrayal on all of you and your kids, but damn. I feel so bad for all of you. There's not context to get this man out of this. Update, I am divorcing my husband. I told my kids and I spoke with Amy's mom. My brother connected me to a very tough junkyard dog type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from my cloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach, completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things said about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18 to 22 or so. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums, and he spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits which looked kind of like a girl's Catholic school uniform and a French-maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school, and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense something was awry when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation, and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months ago, like on my husband's cloud, almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details with what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also non-stop insistent that their friendship only became romantic physical recently, and before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty, he had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry, she's totally furious with her dad and Amy, justifiably so, of course. Mary is recollecting moments and times she watched her dad interact with her friends and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever. Comments. Commenter. How is your son holding up? What has developed between him and Amy? Reply. He hasn't spoken to Amy yet since finding out the news and I'm not sure if he ever will again. Update. Thank you again for all the love and encouragement, it gives me comfort and means so much to me. I've received many comments and messages accusing me of faking this story, which oddly also provides comfort because all of this feels unreal even to me. It validates my own feelings that there are people out there who can't even fathom this being true. I wish it were fake. I've been focusing on and worrying about how others are feeling over this, somewhat ignoring my own feelings which I'm trying to change. I range from anger to numbness like a light switch. We're all safe and still at my brother's house. We're very careful, and his house is secured. Paul has tried to call my cell phone several times a day. I am refusing to interact with him, and I will have my lawyer handle all correspondence. He scares me, frankly. My brother has a very secure house with an alarm system and deadbolt locks. We feel safe with him. Both my son and I got checked out and tested. It appears so far that we're both clean based on the immediate rapid tests, but in the coming days, we'll know for certain when the lab results come in. I'm not overly concerned. Eric is scheduled to see a therapist early next week, which is very good and needed. He's not himself right now, he seems a bit shell-shocked, and I am concerned. He internalizes a lot, and it's hard to get a read on what's going on in his head. That being said, he's thoughtful and has been talking with me, asking me how I'm doing and everything. He's not interested in corresponding with his dad at all. He calls only my cell phone, and he hasn't tried to reach out to either Eric or Mary. I get the sense that Paul is extremely nervous. He's scared, and I think he deep down knows that if investigated thoroughly, he would be in big trouble. That's what my gut is telling me. I still think about the Zoom call with him, and the more I think about it, the more it looked like he was a man whose entire world was crashing down on him. The panic in his face was very apparent. I offered Mary for me to make an appointment with a therapist as well, but she doesn't want to see one yet. She said she's open to it eventually but wants time to herself. She's been asking her friends about her dad and if they experienced any creepiness from him. Her friends were open and honest with her, and apparently, they felt like he stared a lot and sensed his hovering presence whenever they were over. One of Mary's friends went so far as to say that she felt like he was checking her out a lot, like looking at her rear and complimenting the color of her yoga pants. At the time, no issue was brought up about it, but in light of everything that has been happening, it seems strange now. He would sit himself in different areas or vantage points to get a good view of her, she claimed. He also asked questions about what kind of friend group or which clique they were in at school. He kept asking about if they were popular girls. I'm completely embarrassed that they had this experience at our house. As for updates on Amy, which is the main reason why I wanted to write this update, I completely agree that she is also a victim. A lot of people have been emphasizing that, and I agree. I've done everything I could in my own power to indirectly get her opportunities to get help. Like I said, I told her mother, and she's been updating me on everything. Amy, unfortunately, is still living in her deluded reality and I can only pray that she'll eventually come to her senses. She doesn't want to see any doctors or therapists at all and has been constantly trying to reach Paul because, again, she believes that they are in love. From what I've been told, she hasn't been able to get hold of him, and he's been avoiding communication with her completely. Amy blames me for that and believes I took away his devices and am very controlling. Any truth that her mother tries to convey to her is met with conspiracy theories and hostility. Amy looks at me as a villain and still sees Paul through rose-colored glasses. Her mother showed her screenshots of his dating app profiles and matches, and she refuses to believe it, saying I photoshopped it. According to her mom, Amy keeps saying things like everyone is just mad because she found herself a real man, and that I'm jealous because she takes better care of him than I do. It's in line with some of the conversations I screenshot, where a lot of what Paul says is him complaining about things I don't do for him sexually. Right now, she's insistent that she and Paul will be together in the long run. Ugh, he's honestly a slime ball. I can only hope that Amy comes to her senses, but me directly intervening doesn't feel like it would be productive at the moment, maybe eventually though. Update. The support, again, has been overwhelming, and I'm very grateful. Sadly, I've received a lot of negative accusatory harassing private messages from people here who think I'm faking this story. Someone made a comment on some post somewhere, claiming that my story has been debunked, and people believe that person. I've seen an uptick in negative messages accusing me of making this up for money. I'm not asking for money at all, coming here was completely rooted in emotional desperation, and I didn't expect anyone to get invested in my story this way. But again, I'm not looking for anything out of this. I have no reason to lie, I'm not gaining anything from this. If you don't believe me, that's fine, I don't care, but the only thing I ask is to not cross the line and start sending me private messages that are mean-spirited or accusatory. The only reason I'm continuing to post is because of those of you who've sent me love here, and the support really lifted my spirits. As for the divorce, it's very much underway. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it all because it's ongoing, and I want to make sure everything is going to go smoothly. I got temporary custody of Mary. Paul also has to pay temporary child support. There's a protective order, Paul can't contact us or come near us. Right now, we're just focusing on getting through this legal mess. Again, not getting into specifics because I don't want to mess anything up, but what I'll say is I'm very confident, divorce aside, that there's overwhelming evidence against Paul that will get him in serious trouble and it will impact him for the rest of his life. I'm sure eventually I can share more about that. I know a lot of people are concerned about his predatory ways, and I just wanted to convey this, even though I have to be vague right now. Justice will come. All of your concern about how my kids are doing psychologically means a lot to me. Eric has been to therapy twice over the last 2 weeks. I know some people thought I was dismissive of him and acting like he's doing okay. I very much know that he's hurting internally, and we're doing everything we can to make sure he knows he is supported and loved. My brother has been amazing in spending time with Eric and Mary, and both of them have confided in him about a lot. My brother has a very healthy marriage, and both he and his wife have really stepped up to the plate for all of us. Mary has not seen a therapist yet, but she promises that she will be open to seeing one soon. Her anger has mostly turned into sadness, I noticed, and I hope I can get her to see a therapist soon. Her friends have played a key role in this whole thing, and that's something that Mary has been grappling with as well. I know a lot of people are invested in the well-being of Amy as well. There were a lot of questions about whether Eric and Amy would still see each other at school. It sounded like they go to the same school, but they do not. Eric and Amy went to the same junior high school and knew each other even then, but Amy ended up going to an all-girls Catholic high school while Eric, and Mary too, stayed in the public school system. We all lived in the same town, and over the summer heading into freshman year is when they were getting to know each other and when they started dating. I wish I had a better Amy update, but it's gotten a lot worse since the last update. Paul has actually been seeing Amy, despite her mother trying to force her not to see him. She tells me that Amy says she's 18 and an adult, and she can do what she wants. Her mother is in a precarious spot because if she kicks Amy out of the house for defying her, something that she has threatened to do, which I think is a mistake, she would just run to Paul permanently. The time she spends with Paul has increased over the last week, despite the fact that Paul initially ghosted her when all of this first hit the fan. There were some days where Amy would just be gone for hours on end. There's only so much I could do with the Amy situation, but again, I do believe things will turn around soon with that, given what I know about Paul and what's to come. I can only pray that Amy can get help and guidance when more shit hits the fan. I'm doing everything I can with my own kids and my own mental health, and Amy's mom knows she has my support, and that's all I could really provide. Update. My predatory ex-husband fled to Cambodia, my kids and I are still here and going to therapy. I'm sorry it's been so long since my last update. I didn't expect to continue to have this overwhelming amount of support from people for this long, thank you so much. I've gotten so many messages on here that I haven't been able to respond to. So I wanted to share an update with how everything is on my end and my kids' end. So quick recap for those who might not remember what my story is. My husband, Paul, cheated on me with our son, Eric's 18-year-old girlfriend, Amy. When they were caught, he unraveled at the seams. It was clear that he groomed her for years. He had saved dozens of photos of her from Instagram, kept a secret folder of BDSM porn on his computer, and I eventually discovered screenshots and chat logs between them that were beyond disturbing, graphic messages, hours-long phone calls, even them mocking me behind my back. When I confronted him over Zoom, he melted down, sweating, stuttering, yelling the word context over and over again. It was a level of panic I've never seen in my life. I filed for divorce. I took our kids, Eric, and our daughter, Mary, and we left. We stayed at my brother's house. I met with Amy's mother, who confiscated her phone and confirmed everything I'd suspected. Amy told her they were in love. She refused therapy, pushed everyone away, and insisted I was jealous and trying to ruin their relationship. Paul ignored Amy for a while, but eventually they started seeing each other again. She was 18 and legally couldn't be stopped. Meanwhile, I worked with a lawyer. I filed for full custody, and we began building a case. Paul kept trying to contact me directly, but I refused to speak to him. We moved forward with the divorce, even as more disturbing things came to light: his behavior with Mary's friends, the comments, the hovering, the pattern. It was all there, in hindsight. Mary and Eric were both traumatized and they are still in therapy a year later about it. The amount of scorched earth Paul caused is mind-boggling to me. I'm still rattled by it and I don't think I will ever recover, to be honest. Paul and Amy dated for several months after we started the divorce proceedings. I tried my hardest to keep in touch with Amy's mom to see if there was anything we can do for her to realize Paul's predatory behavior and maybe speak out against him, to see if he slept with her or did anything to her when she was younger, but she refused to talk about anything. She was in love still. Just a few weeks before the divorce was supposed to finalize, Paul disappeared. He drained what was left of our shared accounts, what I hadn't already locked down, and left. We found out later that he bought a one-way ticket to Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I had no idea. I got a notification from the financial tracking alert my lawyer set up. That was it. We were close to finalizing everything. I had full custody of Mary. He wasn't contesting anything. Then he stopped replying. Didn't show up to court. Never filed anything. Nothing. It was like he just dissolved. Amy, according to her mother, was devastated and she's completely gone mentally right now. She's basically nomadic, sleeping at friends' homes around the area. Refusing to come home. My lawyer pushed for a default judgment, and the court granted it. The divorce is technically finalized now. I have custody. He's in violation of the support order, but none of it matters. He's gone. Cambodia has no extradition treaty. No child support enforcement. Nothing. There's no way to make him come back. No way to make him pay anything. We have no actual clue where he is in Cambodia. One thing that chills me to my core is how notorious Cambodia is when it comes to trafficking minors. Eric's in college. He keeps his distance from everything to do with Paul. He doesn't say much, but he's steady. I know it still hurts. He just doesn't show it. Mary's quiet about it too. She still brings up little things sometimes, things she remembers now in a different light. She asked me the other night if I thought Paul would come back. I didn't answer. I don't think she really wanted me to. I don't know what Paul's doing in Cambodia. I don't know who he's talking to, or what his life looks like now. I've had a few people tell me to report him to the FBI or try to push for an international investigation. I've made the calls. I've filed what I could. But there's only so much they can do when someone hasn't technically committed a crime that's provable in the US. I don't believe he left the country just to avoid alimony. I think he's a predator and I think he's a criminal. That's all for now. I don't have much else to give. I'm still here. My kids are still here. And we're trying. Thanks to everyone for their concern and care. It really warms me, it means so much to me. Comments. Commenter 1. Thank you for this update. I think about you and your kids frequently. You alluded to him being in legal trouble in your prior posts. Is this why he fled? Reply. Just my gut feeling that he fled because I think he's been with minors. Commenter 2. From what I've learned studying criminology, there's often a pattern to behaviors of people like your ex. I really think he will be back and that he will get caught. Maybe him fleeing is a blessing in disguise, because that puts an actual physical barrier between your family and him. As a mom, woman, well, hopefully decent human being, I would like to thank you for doing the best you could to protect everyone. It must have hurt so much. It's now time for you. For your healing. I wish you all the best and all the happiness you can have. Edit. May I just quickly add something regarding Amy? Maybe you need to hear it. You have done everything you could. There's a moment in horrible situations like this when we just need to step back and allow people involved make their own decisions. And let ourselves have some breathing space from everyone's feelings. It often sucks, because we want to just grab them and shake them by their shoulders until they click into sanity, but your body needs to recover, too. Your nervous system needs to recover. Eat well and sleep plenty. I really hope that there's no guilt involved on your part, because if her life is awful from this point on, it's your ex's fault and I hope that you know it. Stories number 2. Me, 28M, moving to new city, bought house with fiancé, 26F, she's decided she's not coming. My fiancé and I have what I thought was a really good, happy, and stress-free relationship. We only got engaged 2 months ago, so we've barely started wedding planning, but we've been together for about 3 years total. I got a new job which tripled my salary and is in line with my career goals. She always wanted to live on the East Coast. She talked about that a lot before this opportunity even came up, so when I asked her if she would be interested in moving, she was really excited. With the promotion, we'll be able for her to start doing her hobby as full-time work if that's what she wants, so she was thrilled about the opportunity. We picked the house out and bought it together and she was so excited to move in. The original plan was we would both fly out east on the 29th, which would give us a few days to paint the house and get some things ready for when the movers arrived on the 7th. She changed her mind last minute and said she would stay home to make sure everything went well with the movers. I flew back on the 4th and we were going to drive back east after the movers left on the 5th because they wouldn't take our ATV or boat, so we had to haul them ourselves. She decided against this again because she thought it would be too long to sit in a car and she said she would fly out Sunday, yesterday. We booked a ticket and she was supposed to get in around midnight. Yesterday when I was about to leave to go to the airport, she texts me, "I'm not coming. I'm so sorry." I called her and she said she doesn't want to move anymore and can't explain why. By that I mean she can't figure out what it is that's making her not want to move, not that she is choosing not to tell me. Then she says she doesn't want to talk and hangs up. I'm not really sure what happened. There wasn't a single sign that she wouldn't be coming. All of her stuff is here, including her laptop, so if this was planned in advance I would be really surprised. I think maybe she's scared, but she tells me she isn't and she just wants some space. I know Reddit can't tell me what went wrong, but I'm not sure how to approach this. I just started a new job today, so I can't exactly take vacation to fly back home and try to convince my fiancé to move back with me. Should I even try to convince her at all? She's capable of making her own decisions and I don't want to treat her like she isn't. Or does it sound like I did anything wrong in the weeks leading up to this? I thought I was so careful about making sure she wanted to move and it seemed like she did. She had the whole house layout and colors planned out on her Pinterest and she genuinely seemed so excited. Any advice is appreciated. Let me know if you think I might have left something out of the post that could help. TLDR, my fiancé and I were supposed to move for my new job and for weeks she told me was coming but told me at 11th hour, literally, that she wouldn't be moving. Not sure what to do. We also bought the house together, so that further complicates things if we end up breaking up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Don't try to convince her of anything. If you fail, it will only make things more awkward, and if you succeed, it may lead later on to feelings that she's only there because you browbeat her into it. Since her stuff is already there at the new place, you're probably right that she didn't plan this. So either she'll come around and decide to move in with you on her own, or she'll be wanting her stuff back. As you are organizing stuff in the new house, set her stuff aside. If you have a spare bedroom or something, put it all in one place. Don't make any offers to send her the stuff. She's the one calling the shots here, so it's her responsibility to arrange for transportation of her stuff back. All of that said, if you and she are both listed as owners on the deed to the house, and she decides not to come, do whatever it takes to get her name off of the deed right now. Speaking from personal experience, if her name stays on there, it will come back to bite you in the future. I can give more details about my own experience in that situation if you want. Reply. I just don't know how long I should be waiting for her to come around before I move forward with whatever I need to do legally. Commenter 2. I'd give her 2 weeks, and that you need to know one way or the other whether she is coming, or not, by the end of that period, and that if she's not coming, you two have to separate her interest in the house. Tell her that if that's her decision, but you want to keep the house, assuming that you do, of course, and that you would like her to sign over her claim to it. In some places, this is called a deed of partition, but you'll want to talk to a lawyer to find out what the process is in your location. If she did not contribute financially to the purchase of the house, she has no real claim on any equity that exists in it right now, but the longer things go on, and especially if the market goes up, the more likely it is that you will have to buy her out in some way, if you and she are both listed as owners. If she did contribute to the purchase, then you'll probably have to buy her out, to whatever extent she contributed. Update. Thanks for all the advice. I have a happy update for you. She showed up at my new job yesterday to surprise me and she's going to be staying out here. The reason she kept putting off moving was that she found out she is pregnant, it wasn't planned, and was scared to go through pregnancy and have the baby without her mom close by to help. She finally told her mom on Monday and her mom reassured her and bought her a plane ticket and sent her on her way. As exciting as that news is, she's known for about 2 months now and only told me yesterday, so clearly we have a lot to work on. We think there was just way too much going on at once, with the move, my new job, her quitting hers, our engagement, etc. and now the pregnancy. It was just too stressful for her. I'd appreciate any advice on how to make this easier for her. TLDR, she finally showed up. She didn't come because she was pregnant and was scared to not have her mom around. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Premarital counseling. Many couples do this during their engagement to ensure that they are set up with the proper tools for a successful marriage. My fiancé and I did it, and it helped iron out a few minor things and further improved our already decent communication skills. I suggest framing it as premarital counseling because, as we see dozens of times a day here on Our Relationships, many people who need counseling are adamantly opposed to it for a variety of reasons. But by calling it premarital counseling, it will come off as something you can do together that is a fairly socially accepted part of the engagement process, rather than a "something is wrong with you, let's fix it" type of sell. I think it is honorable that you are trying to move past it, but talking it out with someone can really help make sure that there is no lingering resentment regarding her less than perfect communication style down the line. Reply. That's a good idea, I'll definitely suggest it. Thanks. Commenter 2. Be confident and try to have a plan. No lie, you both have a lot going on right now. Is there stuff you can take off your plates? What if you eloped and planned to have a ceremonial wedding later? That might ease her concerns about a child out of wedlock versus needing to rush through the wedding planning. Can she go easy on the job search? Can the two of you afford to have her not work for 2 to 3 years? Or does she really need to ramp up now? Looking at a budget could really help. Reply. We're likely just going to put the wedding off for a while. She wants an actual wedding and there's no need for it to happen anytime soon. She doesn't need to worry about work either, so that should make it easier. Commenter 3. Please make sure that she is truly okay with that option. Being an unmarried SOM is a very vulnerable position. Combined with her stress and hormones, you wanting to postpone the wedding after she made a blunder is likely to make her very insecure. Make sure to reassure her that you're still in this. Reply. She's the one who brought it up. Her actual suggestion was either holding off or just doing the courthouse wedding thing for now, so we're going to be looking into which of those would be best for us. Stories number 3. Aita for refusing to pay for my boyfriend's mom's birthday dinner after she called me his temporary girlfriend. I, 27F, have been dating my boyfriend, 30M, for about a year and a half. Things have been going well, he's sweet, we talk about moving in together, and I've met his family a few times. His mom, however, has never liked me. I don't know why. I'm polite, successful, I bring gifts, I make an effort, but she treats me like I'm just some random he picked up off the street. Last weekend it was her birthday, and my boyfriend planned this big family dinner at a fancy restaurant. I offered to help pay, and he said it'd be nice if I covered half since we were splitting the bill between the kids, his siblings and us. Cool, no problem. Dinner's going well, until his mom raises a toast and says, "I'm just so happy to be surrounded by family, and some of the newer, hopefully temporary additions." Then she looks directly at me and smiles. The whole table laughed awkwardly. I looked at my boyfriend like, "Are you gonna say something?" and he just gave me a "please don't make a scene" face. So I excused myself, went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I told the waiter, "Split my items to my own bill please. I'm paying for myself and that's it." Paid my part. Left. Later, my boyfriend texted saying I was disrespectful and made a scene over a joke, and now his mom thinks I'm dramatic and unstable. I told him the disrespect came from his mom, and if he's okay with her calling me temporary after a year and a half, maybe she's right. He hasn't responded since yesterday. Stories number 4. My wife returned from a work retreat with a hickey. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I'm at loss. How do I move forward? I'm 27M, in a fight with my wife, 28F. We've had fights before but not this bad. I'm at a loss on how to proceed. For context, we're college sweethearts married for almost 6 years. We have a daughter, 4F. Our relationship was never perfect or without challenges. We've faced some family opposition with cultural differences, but we've made it work. She's my first love and my best friend. My wife works in corporate. Her job has annual work retreats that last for about a week. This year was in Vegas. I usually arrange my work schedule and tag along with her, and we make our own trip out of it. We couldn't this year. Our daughter gets major anxiety traveling long distances. We're working on it, but she wasn't budging, and we decided to choose our battles. So I stood behind and held down the fort at home. The change of plans was a bummer because the trip was part of us reconnecting as both a couple and as a family. My wife's work hours have taken a toll, and her work-life balance leaves much to be desired. We entertained the idea of her skipping the retreat. Attendance is optional, but it's generally frowned upon if you don't, and my wife's making connections in her field. She grew increasingly weird. We have a system if either of us is away for extended periods. We keep in contact. For the first day or so, she was herself, but she grew distant. I'd even text her about important stuff and be left on read while she claimed she never saw my text. Whenever we talked, she was rushing me or our daughter off the phone. These were all times she wasn't involved in retreat activities. We were supposed to have a mini birthday celebration for our daughter over FaceTime. Our daughter was excited. It was something my wife promised her because the retreat overlapped her actual birthday. But my wife backed out because she had people up to her room after a seminar. It was like she wanted my permission to break her promise to our daughter. I told her I wasn't offering that nor making her keep her word. She said I wasn't being fair, and this was a networking opportunity. They were business-oriented and wouldn't understand her stepping away for family time. I said her decision is her decision, but she'd have to explain it to our daughter. She promised her that she'd rain check the following day. Our daughter didn't understand and cried. My wife ended up hanging up and leaving me to comfort our daughter alone. That whole incident rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like it. She didn't keep her word for the rain check either. She was documenting the retreat on social media. One coworker, 23M, was almost in every pic video attached to her hip. In one pic he had his arm too comfortably around her immo. He's a recent hire in my wife's department. She was asked to oversee him. I don't like the guy. He doesn't know boundaries. Once, in response to a work assignment, he texted my wife that she's exactly the kind of woman he needs to keep him in check. My wife had brushed it off. She feels bad for him because he's not fitting in. She took him under her wing during his first retreat with the team. If I'd questioned, she'd say she was tired or networking. There was always something. But I've seen her at these retreats. This wasn't like her. She was just off. The day before her return home, she complained about a bruise on her neck. She stressed it was a bug bite. I didn't actually see the bruise until she came home. I instantly thought it was a full-on hickey. She kinda brushed it off after making a big deal of it over the phone. I didn't push because our daughter was present, but when I was able to confront her, she clung to her bug bite claim. When I kept pushing, she asked what I was trying to imply. I outright said I believed she had a hickey, and I didn't believe she was being honest with me. We had it out then. She was offended and pissed at the accusation. Infidelity has always been a sore topic. Her family has a history of infidelity, so we had a pretty bad fight, and she accused me of looking to pick a fight due to the incident with our daughter's birthday. I told her it had nothing to do with that and everything to do with a hickey on her neck. The fight ended in an impasse. We're still not recovered. She swears it's a bug bite. But I'm not convinced. I've always trusted my wife. I never doubted her, but this bruise doesn't look like a bug bite. It looks like a hickey. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the Vegas retreat. Now she's wearing turtlenecks ever since, and we're caught between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. Communication usually prevails for us, but not now. I think my accusation pushed us to a new level of argument. I'm at a loss here. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Comments. Commenter 1. I have been to Vegas and never saw a single bug. It is like dry as fuck, desert-like. Not saying they aren't there, but it's not like she was in the Mayan Riviera. This is all super sus. Don't let her gaslight you. She clearly got a hickey, which is dumb as fuck in itself, probably from the idiot who is too inexperienced to know what he was doing, and preemptively came up with an excuse knowing what it would look like. Out of character behavior. Neglecting her daughter. New young guy hanging off her, that is in photos she knew you could end up seeing, what about what you couldn't see? Eyebrow-raising texts. Commenter 2. I used to travel regularly to Vegas several times a year for about 8 years, worked for the gambling industry. I have never seen a bug anywhere in the vicinity of Las Vegas. What I did see though was a lot of drunks and infidelity. I'm not saying she cheated. But he's right to be suspicious. Commenter 3. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I've never gotten a bug bite that looked like a hickey. Did she show you her phone or provide any proof that could support her innocence or just dismiss you? The extra affection is a common move from guilt-ridden cheaters. Even if we stretch the imagination and believe it is a big bite, she wasn't acting trustworthy nor was she a good mother while was in Vegas, and she needs to address and correct that. Reply. No, I haven't had access to her phone. We usually have an open phone policy, but it's not something we've ever really done. I'm sure it'll be another argument. Update. I, 27M, wanted to give an update and thank everyone who reached out. The outside perspectives helped. Things are a roller coaster. I'm trying to process. It took a while for my wife, 28F, and me to have any real conversation about the bruise on her neck. We were stuck between arguing and her showering our daughter, 4F, and me with affection. I rarely saw the bruise because she was turtlenecked up. But I did note the healing process from reddish purple to yellow. There wasn't any more discussion about the Vegas retreat. She made it clear she was done talking about it and that she shouldn't need to defend herself to her husband. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but I was done being treated like an idiot, and I wasn't sharing a bed with someone I couldn't trust. So I moved into the guest room. Communication stopped. The silences were palpable. Even our daughter noticed. I'm not proud of that. I try keeping her out of fights. My wife came to the guest room one night and asked if we could talk. I could tell she'd been crying. She said she hated the way things were between us. She felt she was losing me either way. I told her I needed complete honesty. She confessed she hooked up with that coworker, 23M, on our daughter's birthday. The hickey was from him. She was lost in the heat of the moment and didn't realize he was sucking so hard on her neck. By her account, they made out while doing some on top of the clothes stuff and then he went down on her. It stopped there because he called her by a nickname that I affectionately call her. It snapped her back to the reality of her actions. She went to splash water on her face and saw the hickey. The guy made light of it and made a joke about the hickey being her souvenir. She blew up on him and kicked him out of her suite. Part of the reason she was avoiding me was out of guilt. She said she's coming clean because she doesn't want to hide things anymore. I asked her why she cheated. What was it about that guy she deemed worth risking everything? She claimed it wasn't him specifically, nor is she unhappy with our marriage. She doesn't really know how to explain it, but a part of her feels broken. The more she looks in the mirror, the more she sees her dad, 57M. A cycle of being consumed with work, distant from child, and the infidelity he put her mom, 55F, through. She said her family never talked about anything openly and how when she was growing up, my MIL never addressed anything with her. I said her parents didn't make her cheat. She chose to party up with a guy who constantly disrespected our relationship. These were all her decisions, and she at any point could have chosen our family. She agreed. She wants to blame her parents but realizes this is on her. She apologized for cheating and for entertaining the guy's advances. She said she'll do whatever it takes to repair. Go to HR, quit her job, counseling, anything. She wants to make everything right. I told her I don't know what right looks like or if that's possible for us anymore. I knew we had our problems, but I thought there wasn't anything we couldn't talk out. She insisted we still could talk it out. We didn't have to give up on us. She tried giving this rally cry for our relationship, but I felt very numb. I said I didn't recognize her. Not just the betrayal of our vows but also how she treated our daughter. She's like a stranger. She feels she failed as a wife and mom, but she loves us both beyond words and wants our life together and our family intact. I told her I couldn't give her the answer she wanted and thought we needed to separate and reevaluate. She didn't want separation. She felt we should stay together in our home, but I told her a separation was happening. Either she was leaving the home or I was with our daughter. She consented to leaving so as to best not uproot our daughter so much. She asked for our daughter not to be taken away from her. My wife's staying with my in-laws. I know that's difficult in itself because she doesn't have the best relationship with her parents. One of the hardest parts is the shift for our daughter. Right now, she believes her mom's just busy with work per usual. She hasn't questioned it too much. My MIL called the other day. She made no excuses for my wife, but she's advocating for us to work through it. She told me times when she heard my wife describe me as the anchor she always wanted. She believes there's something worth fighting for if I'm open. Despite some family opposition we faced throughout our relationship, my MIL was always a supporter of us. I'm even more at a loss. I never imagined this kind of betrayal from my wife. She was my safe place. I feel numb yet broken. I'm in love with her. That hasn't changed. But I don't see myself, her, our relationship, or our family the same. Everything's more tense because it's fresh. I think this period of separation is for the best. I'm not sure about divorce. I haven't let myself fully go there. I'm not set either way. I don't know where things go from here, but I'm focusing on our daughter and taking things one step at a time. I feel that's all I can do right now. Thanks again to everyone for the support. It's much appreciated. TLDR Update 4, my wife returned from a work retreat in Vegas with a hickey on her neck. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the retreat. We're stuck between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. I'm at a loss. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Comments. Commenter 1. Do you think she is still trickle-troughing you? How would the coworker know your nickname for her? Good luck onwards. OP. Also think about this part of your comment whenever your wife tells you she is sorry. Cheating on you is one thing, but your wife's behavior towards her daughter is sickening. Yeah, you don't get to disconnect from being a parent, especially to a minor, for extended holidays. You certainly don't ghost them on their birthday and when you promise to do something special for them and got the child excited about it or hang up on them while they're crying. I was just on a work trip with a coworker who has a couple of little kids similar in age to OP's. He had arranged his travel times to make it easier on them and went back to the hotel to call them every night. Nothing about how the wife is acting is normal or okay. Commenter 2, they didn't stop until he came inside your wife. You know that, right? Commenter 3, she had plenty of time to craft a story where she was less offensive. He went down on her only. Okay. Commenter 4, yeah, that's a convenient story. It's bad but offers a glimpse of, oh, it's not so bad she didn't really do anything to him. That's just not believable to me. Also, the MIL is not your friend here, OP, she's trying to help her child. Again, don't settle for this treatment. Update, thank you again to everyone. I, 27M, couldn't respond to every message, but everything's appreciated. I wanted to provide an update. Things have been a little chaotic with the new status quo after my wife's, 28F, affair, but I'm taking everything one step at a time. My wife and I explained the separation to our daughter, 4F, in simple, concrete terms and reassured her that we both still love her without going into the reasons behind the separation. Our daughter's always been an observant kid, but I don't think the separation has hit her yet. She doesn't see the difference between her mom not being home and her usual busy with work. During visits, she's more distant towards her mom and clings to me. My wife attempted to play with her on this toy set, but our daughter wasn't having it and shouted at her mom that she didn't want to play with her. The disconnect between my daughter and wife hurts in a way I'm still processing. I knew my wife's work-life balance took its toll. Pre-Vegas, we were supposed to be working on reconnecting, but just how fractured things are is a lot more apparent. Our daughter interacts very little with her mom and becomes quiet around her like she does with strangers. I feel at her age we, as her parents, should be who she's closest with and not this disconnected from her mom. Their dynamic is something I've been reflecting on. My main focus is making sure my daughter's okay through all of this. As far as between my wife and me, she's advocating for us to reconcile. She's expressed she wants to work on our marriage not solely for our daughter but because she loves me. Her rally cries for our relationship are still falling flat for me. I can't give her what she wants right now. I told her I wished she would have given herself these rallies before cheating. She's adamant about the affair timeline and what occurred with the coworker, 23M. They connected because she felt bad he wasn't fitting in. He kept flirting and treating her like royalty. It started feeling good on the rougher workdays. They had an emotional affair even though she didn't label it as such at the time. The EA turned physical during the retreat. She dissociated from her life back home while away in Vegas. She still swears they had sex only once. The hickey came from foreplay, and while giving her oral, he called her my nickname for her, which shook her out of it. She snapped at him about his immature attitude with the hickey and then kicked him out of her suite. She thought she could quietly end things and salvage our marriage. I asked her if she wore her wedding ring during sex with him. She confessed that she did. Knowing this hurts like hell. To me, our wedding rings were a physical symbol of our love, commitment to our vows, and our bond. She tarnished our rings. I haven't been able to wear mine. It never hurts any less. There are just new levels to the hurt. She admits to contributing to blurred lines. She's now changed her number and claims to have cut contact with the coworker. She reported the affair to HR. The company has suspended both of them while they investigate the extent to which the affair impacted the department. Coworker relations violate their policy, and it doesn't look good for my wife in terms of power balance since she was the guy's mentor. They're also calling into question if she gave him favoritism. Some have suggested I reach out to the coworker. I've considered it, but I'm not in a place to. I feel a lot of anger towards him. He knew exactly what he was doing with the hickey and nickname stunt. I wouldn't get anything from him except trouble. He's not worth it. I'm choosing to focus on my daughter. I've chosen to pursue marriage counseling. This isn't under the promise of reconciling but as an assist in working through this separation as healthy as possible for our daughter. I'm still numb in a lot of ways. I never thought this would be how my marriage and family turned out. I've seen it happen to others. I've heard stories. I thought I knew what it was like. But it's nothing compared to dealing with it yourself. I don't feel like the same person anymore. I don't know how everything will pan out. It's an uphill battle, but I'm trying to show up to the battle. It's the best I can do right now. Thank you to everyone who has reached out. I appreciate the support, really. TLDR Update 4, my wife returned from a work retreat in Vegas with a hickey on her neck. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the retreat. We're stuck between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. I'm at a loss. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Comments. Commenter 1. The situation hasn't changed. Your wife lied to you, cheated on you, and made up a pathetic story to try and cover herself when things got too obvious. Her cheating was not a mistake but a series of choices, lies, and deceptions. The way you move forward is by seeing a divorce lawyer and proceeding down that path. There is no happiness left for you in this marriage. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. Commenter 2. I still think she's trickle-truthing OP2. OP, you owe her nothing and how could you ever trust her again? For her work, are you sure he wasn't threatening to out the relationship so she did it first? Could you even verify that she did tell HR? If HR does know, she should be scared because she was a predator. Did she use the phrase disassociate? That's when you mentally remove from trauma, not from missing your daughter's birthday to fuck a coworker. Commenter 3. Not going to lie, super surprised she reported it to work, which gives me some hope. She is willing to torpedo her career, to be honest. However you feel how you feel, and you're handling this pretty well, making sure it's about creating a positive environment for your kid. Marriage and personal counseling are helpful for us to learn how to communicate and ask ourselves how we want to feel. Commenter 4. She claims she told work. For all we know, the dude reported it. Update. Thank you again to everyone who's reached out. I, 27M, wanted to provide an update. Things aren't easy. I don't expect them to be. I don't regret the decision to separate. It was necessary. In many ways, I feel like my hand was forced with the betrayal and all the lies. I'm still finding my footing. I don't put people on pedestals, nor did I ever believe my wife's, 28F, and my relationship was perfect. I just didn't think we'd end up like this after all this time together. While HR were still conducting their investigation on my wife and the coworker, 23M, my wife resigned. Apparently she received pushback. Some of the top brass were pulling for her to stay on. I wasn't too surprised because she's always been a yes employee who gets the job done. She worked with the company back as an intern in college. She said she wants to prove that she's taking every possible action in cutting ties with the guy. I don't know what the investigation result was for him. I don't care, TBH. It's not a concern of mine. We've officially begun marriage counseling. It's a new experience overall. I didn't know what to expect. We're mostly discussing our relationship's journey up to now, the affair, and what we want from counseling. My wife's position on how the affair began remains consistent. She can't really explain it precisely. She wasn't unhappy with me, but a part of her feels broken. The undivided special attention became like a drug to her. The convo kind of shifted to my in-laws, 57M55F, my wife's family life, and the impact of my FIL's infidelity. She believes she's a reflection of her dad and how she is as both a parent and a spouse. As a parent, she tried convincing herself she was better than him by showering our daughter, 4F, with gifts in light of her lacking presence. As a spouse, she tried convincing herself she was better because the affair wasn't physical pre-Vegas. She thought as long as they didn't do anything physical, then she was better than her dad. That was something she told her affair partner while in Vegas actually. They could hang out as long as it didn't turn physical. I feel like she had so many chances to choose differently. To choose us and our family, but she tossed our daughter and myself to the train tracks. Our relationship wasn't enough to stop her, our wedding rings weren't enough, and our crying daughter wasn't enough. She chose herself every time. She was selfish. She mentions the nickname thing, making her snap back to reality as if it's supposed to make me feel better. It doesn't. I believe she only stopped at oral because she got off and had no more need to go further. I wasn't on her mind. Telling me that I was is like trying to put a band-aid on a gunshot wound. I didn't plan to say half of everything I did, but there was no going back once the door was opened during my turn to talk. She agreed and said she has no excuse for her actions. It's not her parents, it's just her. She swore that she loves me and our daughter and wants to fight for our family. I told her that the "I love yous" felt hollow now. She shut out our daughter and myself to give an intimate part of herself to her coworker. She said she realizes how much larger than just the affair our problems are. She struggles connecting with our daughter and worries about messing her up, so she left the primary caretaking to me. She believes I'm better at it. She said that there's nothing she can say to change anything, but she wants to show change through her present actions. That's some stuff we've dug through in counseling. We're still in the early stages. But I believe it's aiding in communication through separation, which is more healthy for our daughter. Our therapist recommended individual counseling as a complement. It's something I'm seriously researching for myself. Not much has changed with our daughter since the previous update. She still doesn't feel there's a difference between her mom being home or not. I've watched her go from talkative and playful to instantly completely silent when her mom came by. I've scheduled her for play therapy. I don't know what to expect from that either, but I'm hoping for the best. My main goal is being present for her. I know I need to learn how to trust again in general. That's shot right now. Pre-Vegas, I never had a reason to doubt my wife. My trust was something she had as an irreplaceable partner. I've been betrayed before, but this one did a number in a way the others hadn't. I'm trying to stay afloat and focus on what I have rather than what I lost. I can't afford to get lost in myself. Thank you to everyone for the support and for sharing your own experiences. Talking about all this isn't easy for me, but I appreciate the openness. Comments. Commenter 1. It appears you want to make it work with your WW. Do you really believe they only messed around one night? The saying once a cheater always a cheater is so true. Your WW has a character flaw that can't be fixed. I'm sorry, but you and your daughter are going to be better without her. You'll never trust her again, and whatever you had is broken. I wish you and your daughter well. Reply, I haven't chosen reconciliation right now. My focus has been on my daughter and the other fires this situation has caused. Commenter 2. I am curious on the age of y'all and when y'all first met and had your daughter. Only curious because this seems like a similar experience I had with my husband. We met at 19, pregnant at 21, and separated by 23. We had gone our own ways on, and 3 years later we rekindled the relationship. His infidelity fucked with me so bad. I always hope I made the right choice by giving him another opportunity to mend our family. We were young. He was dumb. I was in a hurry. Now that I'm 27, I want to go back and tell myself so many things, but I would then be preventing the creation of my daughter. It hurts the lessons we are taught from our spouses at such young ages. It stings a little more when it's least expected. Maybe taking time to see other people is something she needs to see what she really has. Unfortunately, my husband has to do this to realize I was that woman he was overlooking the entire time before. We are still finding our ground, but we're now almost 2 years into the rekindling. It hasn't been easy, it hasn't been pretty, and man has it taught us both patience and grace when you come back. It takes a special couple to make things work again after seeing other people. One a cheater always a cheater, can be true, but if that cheater does some hard-ass work on themselves and proves it to you, I believe people can change, but only the rarest can. Reply, we were college sweethearts. We met as freshmen. I guess we were still pretty young when everything came together, but I knew I wanted a life with her. Everything had made sense to us. I can relate to what you mean. There are a lot of things I'd tell myself back then. It's kinda strange because I don't look back with regret. I wouldn't have my daughter if I'd chosen a different path. I'm really sorry about your own experience. I think your journey shows an incredible amount of strength. I hope for the best for you and your family going forward. New update. I, 27M, wanted to provide an update on things. I don't have much new to say about therapy in itself. I'm staying the course with marriage counseling, and my wife, 28F, and I have both begun individual counseling. It's an interesting experience and has given me an outlet. I sees a nice compliment to MC, my wife's keeping her therapy appointments. She's journaling too. I'm surprised because journaling wasn't something she's ever really believed in. In MC, she said it's helping her reflect. Our daughter, 4F, has begun play therapy. We're still in the early stages. She's hesitant but coming around to it. Once she gets going, though, you can't get the toys out of her hands. It's reassuring seeing her in an environment where she's engaging and being more herself. It gives me hope that she'll be okay through everything. The play therapist has been discussing when to best involve my wife. Nothing's concrete yet. I also want to progress at a rate our daughter's comfortable with and not force anything. I'm really proud of her. She's a major reason why I can't regret being with my wife. There are a lot of things I'd tell my younger self, but if I'd chosen a different path, then I wouldn't have my daughter. It's something I wouldn't change. I had another major challenge recently. It was my wife's and my anniversary. Our anniversary always meant something to me. Even with her terrible work-life balance, we'd make an effort to make the occasion special. I felt a lot of conflicting emotions about our anniversary this year. Mostly pain. We had plans. Everything was booked and set pre-Vegas retreat. Needless to say, the trip was cancelled. My wife wanted to keep our plans intact. I told her that wasn't happening. Without the trip, she said she still wanted us to spend our official anniversary together instead of separately. I turned her down. We discussed it in therapy. I expressed I didn't have the needed trust in her to let myself be vulnerable with her as I once was. I needed to process the anniversary on my own. The anniversary had me having all these strange thoughts. A lot of it highlighted how much I miss my friend and partner. I'm not talking about reconciliation. I'm not entertaining that right now, I'm talking about something deeper. To share a life with someone and everything that entails, them being your partner and closest friend, and then having what you devoted yourself to yanked away. I can't be with her in all the ways I wanted. Call it simping. Call it foolish. Call it a doormat. Call it whatever you want. I just call it the facts of falling in love and giving them your all for a long time, then finding out they had another life, and losing what you held close. It hurts, and I hadn't let myself actually feel it until then. I feel like everything moves on. Life moves on. My wife's affair partner, 23M, moves on. Work moves on. And here I am. I'm the one who's living the loss. I'm the one who's paying. I also wanted to address an FAQ. I've been asked a lot about what I meant in my first post about the cultural differences and family opposition my wife and I faced. We're an interracial couple. My wife's Korean. We're both minorities, but my FIL, 57M, and his side of the family wanted my wife to settle down with someone who's Korean. They're conservative in their beliefs, so I wasn't exactly welcomed, and we dealt with opposition from that angle. It was rough. Even at our wedding, my FIL was more a silent attendee. Because of my wife and FIL's strained relationship, she was firm that she didn't care about his approval. She rejected him walking her down the aisle, which, of course, didn't help their relationship. My wife made her own choice. I had nothing to do with it, but anger was thrown at me. My FIL took it as I influenced her against him, and his side of the family said my wife wasn't being a good daughter. Things with my FIL didn't really mend until our daughter. He mellowed after becoming a grandpa and became receptive toward me. Despite our past, he's doting as a grandparent. My MIL's, 55F, a different story. She's always been welcoming and supportive of our relationship. Her support made a difference. She's been like a mother to me. I'm realizing more and more the rippling effects of an affair. How much it just takes and consumes. The different facets to the loss. I lost not only the life I chose but also family and friends. Just keep losing. That's pretty much all there is to update about. Thank you to everyone for the support. Even if I couldn't respond, just know everything is much appreciated. It means a great deal. TLDR Update 4, my wife returned from a work retreat in Vegas with a hickey on her neck. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the retreat. We're stuck between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. I'm at a loss. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Comments. Commenter 1. Good for you standing your ground on your anniversary. That's not fair to you for her to push to keep the previous plans. It's selfish and she's trying to rug sweep what she did. She's still not showing true remorse. It's like she's doing the journaling and counseling because she's being told to, not because she's trying to rebuild trust. I'll be the first to say that she's still full of it. Reply, I believe she was hoping we'd reconnect and it'd be some breakthrough for me. Either way, I wasn't in any headspace to come together for any anniversary. Commenter 2. It's not simping. You're mourning the relationship. You're mourning the life you had with the person she was. It's just like when someone dies. You miss them. Reply, yeah, I'm just kinda questioning everything about our past which I know she hates. She says she's still the same person I've always known but I can't reconcile that person to the person who committed everything that came to light. Commenter 3. How you might try explaining this to her. So you were always a woman who would engage in a flirtatious relationship with a younger coworker while already in a relationship and then cheat on your husband with that coworker. And you were also always the type of person who would ghost her daughter on her birthday to cheat, instead? Do you think I would have married you if I'd know you were the kind of person who would cheat on me and ghost your own daughter to cheat? Yes, I know you wouldn't change anything because of your daughter, but this is designed to get your wife to understand that if this has always been her, it's a surprise to you and it's not the person you thought you were marrying. That's a big part of the problem. Stories number 5. Aita for kicking my house guests out 11 hours before their flight is scheduled to leave. My friend and his wife have made plans to visit us this summer for a weekend stay. The flight is 2 hours, so not a really long journey for them. We have our home professionally cleaned regularly and go all in to be good hosts to our guests. However, with any good thing, some people try to take advantage. I usually will take an extra day from work after guests leave to get rest or even tidy up the house a bit. It's just a peaceful time for me to return to the normalcy of our household after being in host mode. Before my friend booked his flight, my husband let it slip that I will not be working the Monday after my friends stay with us. Next thing I know, my friend tells me that they will be flying out on a red-eye the Monday I took off for rest. This means they will arrive early Friday morning, and leave late Monday night. To that I responded that I will be taking them to the airport as early as 8 a.m. Monday morning so I can have my day of rest like I planned. My friend tells me that he doesn't understand why they can't just hang out at our place or have us show them around town more on that Monday since they have a late flight. I explained to them that the day off is for me to rest, not to continue to be their host. I told them that they are more than welcome to leave their luggage here if they want to go explore on their own, but we will not be hosting them or playing tour guide after Monday morning. He goes on to admit that it was cheaper for him to book the later flight on Monday and that it's not a big deal for him and his wife to just hang out at my house all day until it's time for them to fly out. Keep in mind that I will have to take them to the airport or pay for rideshare because he refuses to pay. I will also have to feed them. I told him that they are welcome to visit and stay with us, but staying at our house all day Monday is not an option and he needs to make other arrangements. He's now accusing me of being a horrible friend and his wife says we're AHs. Your thoughts? Stories number 6. Wife kicked my cousins and their friends out after they pranked her Aita for not stopping her. Yesterday my cousins showed up on my home with their friends unannounced. My 3 cousins and their 7 friends said that we all should spend first together. We all cooked together, got drunk and had more fun than ever before. I should have expected that they would April's Fool prank my wife, but I was being a dumbass. While I was drinking with other men my wife suddenly showed up in front of me and grabbed me and asked me if I'm cheating on her. I was shocked and I told her that I never cheated and I would never cheat on her. My wife asked me for my phone and she locked herself in our bedroom and spent almost half an hour going through my phone, and when she came out she said she'll smack me if she ever finds out that I'm cheating on her and she'll show no mercy. Turns out the women pranked her and told her that I'm cheating on her as a prank. My wife is religious and getting married to her is in itself an achievement for me. All of my cousins and their friends explained to her that it was just a prank and I'm not cheating on her, but my wife was angry at them and told them to get out of our house and she doesn't want to listen to their explanation anymore. After they all left my wife told me that if I ever cheat on her she'll make sure I'll regret it. She said she didn't get married to me only to find me in bed with another woman. I told her that I'll never cheat on her and they were pranking you. She said she doesn't like it and doesn't want them anywhere near us. I told her that I know and they won't prank you like this ever again, and she already has access to my phone and knows my password, so she should calm down and not let the alcohol take control of her. But my cousins are telling me now that I shouldn't have let my wife kick them out and I should have instead explained to her that it was just a prank. I told them that it was a shitty ass prank and what exactly were they expecting. I told them that they are no longer allowed in my house at least for some time. They are saying that we both are crazy and I am my wife's slave. Not really sure what they were expecting. They expect my wife to laugh. Who pranks like this even? I think there are harmless prank and this one is stupid. Ada. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. YTA, so why the hell are you still talking to them? She told you she no longer wants them in your lives and you said yes. Yet now already you are betraying her and caring more about what the assholes who tried to ruin your marriage want or say. You should be ragging at them and you should be supporting your wife here instead of going behind her back to them. Why did you marry her if you let people treat her like crap and then support them and not your wife? Poor woman, she sure as heck picked a crap husband. Reply, why can I not talk to my cousins? She said what she said in her anger after this cruel prank. She's my wife, not my master. Does talking to my cousins and to clarify means I'm betraying her? My wife has my support and I don't want you to tell me how to support my wife. Thank you. Also am not letting anyone treat my wife like crap. She herself is capable enough to handling stuff like you. My stance about not interfering with my wife kicking them all was enough for her to know that she can go all out and they'll back her up and she can do whatever she wants. Commenter 2. Are you joking with this? Your wife has laid out how you support your wife. She told you she didn't want them in your lives anymore, clearly because they made a credible attempt to ruin your marriage. It's worked, BTW. Because you've shown you don't have her back against them and have a spine made of jelly babies. Her trust in you was shattered, and now you're kicking the pieces. Support your wife. Go to war against your BS cousins. Reply, am I joking? Nah, are you for real though? I only conversed with cousins to seek clarification in details as to what happened during my absence. If my wife doesn't want my cousins in our life then so be it, but that doesn't mean I can't talk to them at all. Also my wife knows that I always have and will always have her back, which is why I didn't interfere when she kicked them all out. My wife trusts me more than you can even possibly imagine. Commenter 3. NTA. They FAFO. Hopefully your wife cuts them off for good. Good on you for supporting her. They are the only assholes here. Reply, there's no question about it, my wife is definitely cutting them all. At best she'll rarely talk to them. I'm not really sure why they pulled this prank on my wife. Even when I talked to my cousins for clarification I didn't get a satisfactory answer from them. I thought they knew my wife enough to not pull a prank of this level, knowing how sensitive my wife is. My wife is religious to the core and like I said, getting married to her is an achievement in itself. It proves how much she loves me and willing to do whatever that is required for our marriage. For now I think I should let my wife handle this situation and I shouldn't interfere unless it's necessary. She's not as weak as other women and she becomes even more ruthless when it comes to our marriage. I think she can handle this situation herself. Commenter 4. 10 people show up to your house uninvited and unannounced to eat your food, drink your alcohol and for the oh-so-funny prank of making their host think that her entire marriage is a lie. Your cousins and their friends are rude and shitty people. Update. TLDR, my cousins and their friends April's fool pranked my wife and they pranked in the worst way possible. They pranked her by telling her that I'm cheating on her. I tried everything I could to convince my wife to forgive my cousins and forget about it, but my wife didn't listen to me and still periodically checks my phone and keeps tabs on me, and I think that she thinks that I'm cheating even though I told her that I would never cheat on her, and even my cousins are trying to tell her that it was a prank. A shit one but still a prank. I told my wife to calm down and to not mind what my cousins said in their prank, but my wife got angry and she said she didn't marry me only to find me with other women. My wife is super religious, marrying her is in itself an achievement for me, and she fought hard just to marry me, and I think I understand why she's so angry. I asked her what she wants me to do to calm her down. She said she doesn't like my cousins and she wants them all as far away as possible from us. I asked her if there's anything I can do to make peace between them all. She said in their religion they aren't allowed to even talk about cheating, and she's angry because my cousins are idiots and she will kill me by her own hands if I ever cheat on her after she went through so much just to marry me. My wife said she trusts me but she's hurt by the prank and she will handle it herself, and I should stay away from my cousins and this overall situation. My wife is so pissed and I thought it would just be okay, but my wife doesn't want me to interfere. If it was something else my wife would listen to me no doubt, but my cousins and their friends hit the nest, and even if I try to help them my wife won't let me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Dude, seriously, you are still the AH. Side with your wife. Cut contact with them until they make a serious apology. You aren't helping your wife's insecurity or your case by taking their side and having a flippant attitude. Reply. But I have my wife's back and doing exactly what my wife wants me to. She wants to avoid my cousins and wants me to avoid them, so I am going to and will avoid them as much as I can. Commenter 2. The way you describe her in the post does not sound like it's hyperbolic. It sounds like she's actually giving you a warning. Regardless, I don't know why you're trying to get your wife to forgive your cousins when they intentionally went out of their way to upset your wife and paint you as a cheating spouse. You can do whatever you want. But don't ask us to take your side when your relationship with your wife was absolutely disrespected by these people. Reply. Well, you are not entirely wrong. My wife was deaf giving me a warning, but I'm sure, and when I said my wife will kill me it was purely hyperbolic. Final update. TLDR, my idiot cousins April's fool pranked my wife about me cheating on her, and they went so hard on my wife that even if I try to defend them I am at risk of losing my wife. I'm really tired of my wife periodically checking my phone, and I think that my wife is suspicious of me, but at the same time I think I'm wrong for not kicking my cousins out and listening to my wife. The reason why I was so tolerant and forgiving because I love my cousins, and deep down I thought they were just April's fooling my wife, and I thought my wife would get over it. I asked my wife what does she want me to do. She said she already told me. I asked her to make it clear to me once again without getting angry, and I will do whatever she wants. My wife says that she's deeply hurt by what my cousins said and she doesn't want them anywhere near us anymore, and I should stay away from them as far as I can from my cousins. I told her that I'm cutting my cousins off and I won't talk to them at all no matter what unless she forgives them. She cried and screamed at me, and she once again said that she didn't marry me only to be told that her husband is in bed with another woman. I told her that I love her and I didn't want to hurt her. I comforted her as best as I could and told her that she'll never see me with or anywhere near my cousins ever again unless she approves of it. I think I managed to calm my wife down, and if I have to cut my cousins off to keep my life partner in my life then I'll do what's necessary. I think I should have done that long ago, and yes, I agree I should have listened to her instead of convincing her. My wife is religious and extremely dedicated to me. I was being an ass and I will change that no matter what. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Honestly, you should have cut off your cousins the moment the prank happened. No joke is worth risking your marriage, and your wife's trust was shattered by their cruel actions, making it vital that you show her she comes first. Reply. I should have, but I didn't. It was stupid of me to think that my wife would forgive them and we can still get together like we always did. Commenter 2. Why are you saying, I'll cut them off unless she forgives them? They tried to ruin your marriage too, my dude. Goodbye cousins, goodbye, friends. Are they worth the headache they have caused you? She will probably be uncertain of you for a long, long time. Reply. I was trying to tell her that I will cut my cousins out of my life unless she forgives them and willing to maintain cordial relationship between us as long as she wants that. If not, then we won't talk to each other at all. I was basically giving her the power, because they ruined it and my wife is suspicious of me now. My wife was never suspicious of me before this, and yes, this whole shit is not worth this much trouble and drama. I should stay away from them all. Commenter 3. She's told him repeatedly what she wants. In his first post, in his last update, and again in this one. Dude just doesn't get it. In 6 months he'll post another one. 6 months ago, my cousins pranked my wife, saying I was cheating on her. She wanted me to cut them out of our lives, but I've been hanging out with them behind her back, and she found out. She served me with divorce papers and moved out. What can I do to get her back? Reply, my wife told me repeatedly, and yes, I was being a stupid dumbass, but that doesn't mean my wife would hand me divorce papers. That's stupid. It's not like I cheated. If I did, she would hand me something else, but not as useless as divorce papers. Yes, I was wrong and I'm doing everything I can in my power to make her happy. My wife is not like other women to just hand me papers and to wholeheartedly think that her husband is cheating on her. My wife knows that I can't physically or emotionally ever cheat on her. She got married to and unconditionally for a reason. Commenter 4, honestly, you should have cut off your cousins the moment the prank happened. No joke is worth risking your marriage, and your wife's trust was shattered by their cruel actions, making it vital that you show her she comes first. Stories number 7. Aita for telling my wife to shut up and let our daughter do what she wants after she came out to us. Forgive me if the format of this is off. I only come here because my younger sister says that Reddit might be able to figure this one out for me. I, 39M, have been married to my college sweetheart, 38F, for almost 15 years now. We have a daughter, 15F, whom I have been extremely close with since she was very little. I have told her on multiple occasions that I would do anything for her. She had just come out as bisexual to my wife and I a few nights ago, and my wife went batshit crazy. She started cursing her out, telling her how much of a disappointment she was to her, how embarrassing it is to have a F*** for a child, and how she'd disown her out if she ever brought a girl home. This was extremely infuriating to me, but honestly, more shocking than anything. My wife has a very strong religious background, being the daughter of a pastor. But I didn't expect her to just go completely ape shit on our daughter. I was only expecting a little stern talking to, but not that extreme. I have similar beliefs to my wife, but they're not so strong to the point where I would disown my own child because of them. I don't have the best relationship with my parents because when I was my daughter's age, I got into some legal trouble from simply hanging out with the wrong people. I spent 9 months in a juvenile detention center and was sent to live with my grandparents because my parents didn't want anything to do with me. That sent me into a deep and dark spiral of depression and feelings of being unworthy, so I vowed to myself that if I have children, I would never walk out on them no matter what they do. I fully support all of my children in everything they do, and do my best to guide and direct them based on my own personal experiences. I spoke with my wife about it and asked if she thinks she could have handled that differently, to which she replied, if it gets the message across that she's going to hell if she wants to sleep with a girl, then no. She then goes on to say that, no daughter or child of mine is gonna grow up into a F*** and embarrass her entire family. This only pissed me off more, and here is where I might end up being an AH. I told her to shut the hell up and let our daughter do what she wants to do. My wife then started screaming at me and practically blaming me for raising a sinful little b****, and because she takes after her father. And that she wouldn't hesitate to file for divorce if I supported my daughter's lifestyle. I dared her to, and now I haven't spoken with her for the past few days. So now I'm debating if this marriage has run its course on this one argument alone. I love my wife, but I most certainly won't choose her over my daughter in this situation, so I'll leave it up to Reddit. Am I being the AH here for taking my daughter's side and telling my wife to shut the hell up about it? Edit. I just want to add this here for some context to a bunch of the comments that I've read. Yes, I share beliefs in the fact that homosexuality is a sin, but there are so many other things that are sin too. Lying, stealing, cheating, sex before marriage. My daughter was conceived to sex before marriage, having a child out of wedlock. My daughter was born a few months before our wedding. I don't think that one sin outweighs the other. But I'm just calling a spade a spade. Sin equals sin. But because I'm no saint, I'm no perfect person by no means. I've made mistakes, I've done wrong, and will continue to do wrong for as long as I live. I will continue to sin and fall short no matter how hard I try not to. I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and disown my daughter just because she's done wrong. Because at the end of the day, I'm no better than her. Also, I wholeheartedly believe that homosexuality is not a choice. People don't wake up one day and suddenly decide to be attracted to the same gender. My daughter didn't choose to like girls no more than I chose to be white. She likes what she likes and there is absolutely no fault in that. I did in fact speak with my daughter, and as you can imagine, she was distraught and in disbelief. There was definitely some guilt on my end for not stepping in sooner and speaking on her behalf, to which I apologized for. Her mother was completely out of line and ignorant. I have been reminding my daughter that I love and support her and will stand 10 toes down behind her. She has not spoken to her mom and has voiced to me that she probably won't unless her mom apologizes to her. I honestly don't see that apology coming anytime soon. And lastly, I did in fact say more than just that. But the gist was that I told her to shut the hell up. I could make an entirely separate post for what I said to her exactly. Thanks for all the comments and messages. I was just looking for some reassurance that I'm not crazy for being upset with my wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife. Divorce papers loading. Edit 2. I wanted to make another edit to address another thing. Tons of people have brought the question that if homosexuality is a choice, how can it be a sin? Which is a very fair and valid point. Just wanted to provide some clarification. Whether you believe homosexuality is a sin or not, is your business. The point I wanted to make is that regardless of whether you view it as a sin or not, doesn't matter, truthfully. If you do think it's a sin, gay people are still sinners. If you don't think it is, gay people are still sinners. And so are straight people. I don't look at my daughter indifferently because she likes women. I don't treat her any differently than any other human being. At the end of the day, my daughter will forever and always be my daughter, and nothing will ever change that. Whether she's gay, bi, etc. I'm no better than my daughter, and neither is anybody else in the world. Sorry for not making that clear, but hopefully this helps a bit. Edit 3. Hopefully the last edit I have to make. Sorry guys. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm just wanting y'all to have my full stance on the situation. I don't care that my daughter is bisexual. It changes absolutely nothing about our relationship. I do think that God did in fact make her this way. Very good points that if homosexuality is a choice, then how is it a sin? As humans, we are sinful by nature. We are all born sinful. We didn't ask to be born that way, we didn't have the choice. We are all made in the image of God despite being born with a sinful nature. We can try as hard as we can to limit our sin, but we will never get rid of it altogether. Because of this, I wouldn't try and change my daughter's sexual orientation even if I wanted to. Because even if she was straight, she still wouldn't be perfect. And her being bisexual doesn't make her any worse than anyone else. I wholeheartedly support her. Always have, and I always will. She is free to love whomever she pleases, and I hope that she will never let anyone change that. Love is love. And as a Christian, I will continue to love and support my daughter, through and through. Stories number 8. Myasal, 28F, tried to take my, 27F, baby's things after my miscarriage and said I don't deserve kids. I, 27F, have been with my husband, 31M, for 6 years, married for just over 2. We have a really strong, loving relationship. I met him through his younger brother, Mark, 28M, who I've known since I was around 17. Back then, Mark was in a dramatic, on and off relationship with Sarah, now his wife. They were that couple people constantly gossiped about them, joked about how long they'd last, who would cheat first, how many kids they'd end up having. I never considered them toxic per se, just unstable. I admit, I joined in on the gossip here and there, but it was high school and not something I ever thought would carry into adulthood. Years later in college I ran into Mark again. He was single at the time and we started hanging out casually. He introduced me to his roommate, and we all hung out a few times. Not close friends, but friendly. One night I attended a party his roommate was hosting. TWSA. That night changed my life. I was sexually assaulted by Mark's roommate while I was blackout drunk and then abandoned at the house. It was traumatic beyond words. I was lucky to have amazing friends including Mark who supported me. Mark encouraged me to report it and I did, but nothing meaningful came from it at the time. Eventually another girl came forward saying he had tried to forcefully kiss her, which helped validate my case a little, but the university still didn't take much action. The university claimed the guy had exceptional performance and deep regret and simply banned him from being around me, whatever that meant, and sent him to counseling, in the same building as me. Mark ended up moving in with his brother, my husband. I would visit occasionally and that's how we met. My husband was gentle, patient, and truly helped put me back together. I had completely lost my sense of self and he slowly, lovingly helped me find it again. I'll never forget how safe I felt with him after all that darkness. Sarah, however, has not been quite welcoming. She's accused me of liking Mark, completely untrue and disturbing, honestly. Yes, Mark and I used to bicker like siblings, but it was never anything remotely romantic. I've only ever seen him as a friend and now just family. But Sarah seems to have held on to this weird narrative. We've always had some minor friction, passive-aggressive digs, cold shoulders, the occasional pointed comment. My MIL has always had a soft spot for me. She's openly said how much she appreciates me. She was thrilled when we got married. Sarah on the other hand didn't hide her jealousy. She even made snide remarks about how I locked him down so quickly. We dated for about 4 years before marrying. She and Mark were together on and off for nearly a decade before tying the knot. A few months ago I had a miscarriage. It crushed me. I didn't know a heart could break that way. And during that time she brought up my abortion while I was grieving my miscarriage. A few months into our relationship I had an abortion. I was suicidal, emotionally wrecked, and in absolutely no place to carry a pregnancy. It was not a decision I took lightly, but it was necessary. My husband supported me completely. I don't know what she exactly said as she was outside my room, but I could hear snippets and it wasn't very positive. It was cruel and I mentioned it to my husband, who defended me and told her off, but I have maintained distance since. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. Sarah is pregnant and we were genuinely happy for them. We showed up for her baby shower with gifts, but I was quietly emotional because it reminded me of the baby shower I never got to have. I wasn't jealous, just a little heartbroken. I smiled through it, but being surrounded by everything I lost brought a lot of quiet pain. But Sarah pulled me aside at her shower and accused me of being jealous and of trying to steal her moment. I stayed calm, tried to explain that I was just a bit emotional, but when she wouldn't listen I put on a happy face since I didn't want to ruin the day. Later, when my MIL comforted me, after noticing I was off, Sarah again accused me, this time louder, of trying to make the day about myself. I didn't say anything, but my husband saw it all and decided we should leave early for the sake of my mental health since the miscarriage was recent and we were still grieving. We stayed until nearly everyone had left and then quietly slipped out. Later that night Sarah called me crying, saying I ruined her day. I kept calm, didn't want to stress her out since she's pregnant, after all, so I told her gently to focus on herself and not on petty drama. She got offended at the word petty and said I was disregarding her feelings. I was exhausted and just wanted to sleep, so I apologized just to end the conversation. Then a few days later she showed up at our house. I thought she was going to continue the argument, but it was worse. She asked for the baby blanket and crib that my MIL gave me during my pregnancy, the ones I never got to use. I was completely shocked. That stuff is in a nursery we haven't touched since the miscarriage. These were items that were deeply personal, they were part of the joy I had during that pregnancy. After the miscarriage we put everything in a nursery that we haven't touched since. It's painful for both me and my husband to even walk past that room. It's half finished, full of items from that time. Neither of us have had the emotional strength to go in there, let alone pack things away. I was stunned. I told her that my husband wasn't home and I'd have to talk to him. That was a lie. I had no intention of giving her those things, ever, but I was panicking. We'd never interacted one-on-one like that before. There was always my husband or in-laws around. I didn't know if she might just take the things while I stood there. She's pregnant, so I couldn't physically stop her and I wouldn't risk hurting her. So I said what I had to say to de-escalate. She insisted that my husband would understand and that my MIL was okay with it. That stung. I just repeated that we'd talk and get back to her. Eventually she left, saying she'd come back when my husband was around. When he came home and I told him, he was furious. He called his mom and told her to give Sarah something else, anything else from Mark's childhood, but the things meant for our baby were not hers to take. My MIL said she had no idea Sarah had even come over. My husband then told Mark, who had a talk with Sarah. Instead of any kind of apology or understanding, she doubled down and started throwing the same accusations she's always thrown about me being jealous, about me hating her. I don't remember the whole conversation because it was the same old script, until she said something that broke me. She said I didn't deserve the baby stuff because I wasn't pregnant and was just wasting it. When I argued back and told her how hurtful that was, she responded, "I'm glad you don't have kids because you'd probably be stingy and territorial with them too." I was stunned. I couldn't breathe. I don't think I've ever heard anything more cruel in my life. My husband immediately told them both to get out. He shouted, which I don't blame him for. That's when Mark got pissed and said, "You can't talk to my wife like that." And my husband responded, "She has no business being in our house if she's going to act like this." Some back and forth happened. Mark called me a bitch, which hit me hard. It hurt more than I expected, from someone who once supported me through one of the worst moments of my life. It felt like a betrayal of everything. My husband then punched Mark and kicked them out. After they left, I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to do anything else. I cried the whole day. It felt like all the progress I'd made in coping with the loss of our baby was gone. My husband was equally devastated, not just by what they said to me, but by what his own brother had become, which I hadn't noticed until that very moment. We've decided to cut ties with them. We told my MIL to handle things going forward. She's not pressuring us and understands. And to help me heal a bit, my husband planned a sweet little date night. It did help, a little. But I still can't stop wondering, why would Sarah say something so cruel? I know we weren't close. We were bitchy, passive-aggressive digs, subtle jabs, the classic not passing the salt type of drama. Maybe I dismissed it as trivial, but maybe it wasn't trivial to her. Maybe the gossiping in high school about her and Mark stayed with her. Maybe me being introduced into the family while she was in one of her off phases with Mark hurt more than I realized. Maybe the fact that my MIL and I had more one-on-one time stung her, but I never tried to hurt her. I just didn't feel welcome enough to build a relationship. She always seemed cold, distant. I figured she just wasn't interested in being friends. And the jealousy thing. I honestly don't know where it comes from. Mark clearly loves her. Their relationship may be rocky, but there's no lack of love. So I don't get the paranoia about me. It's exhausting and insulting to both her and my relationship. I'm not denying that her behavior warrants us cutting ties, but I can't help wondering if I could have done better in the past. Maybe I could have tried harder, been warmer, pushed past her coldness. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm hurt. I don't think I deserved the way she behaved. And something I haven't said out loud to anyone yet, I think I might be pregnant again. I haven't taken a test. I've been putting it off, maybe out of fear, maybe out of hope. I've noticed the symptoms that doesn't feel like my usual anxiety. I keep telling myself it could be anything. Maybe I'm just stressed. Maybe it's all in my head. Maybe it's just wishful thinking because deep down I want it to be true so badly. I want another chance. But at the same time I'm absolutely terrified that it is true. What if my body fails me again? What if I let myself hope only to grieve again? What if I'm not strong enough this time? I am so scared. And then there's the other side. What if I am pregnant and Sarah finds out? She's already proven how insecure and reactive she can be. If she thought I was stealing her spotlight before, what is she going to do when I have actual news? She might weaponize my past against me, my abortion, my miscarriage. I don't want my possible pregnancy to feel like some kind of twisted competition. It's not. I want peace. I want healing. I want to carry this baby without fear or defensiveness, only with quiet hope and love. But even the possibility of being pregnant feels like a burden right now because I don't know how to protect that space for myself without feeling like I have to defend it from her. I know I can't hide it forever if it's real. I also know that if I'm not pregnant or if I can't get pregnant again, I still want to know my niece or nephew and I want to be a good aunt. I don't want Sarah or Mark to take that away from me, but I think they did. I feel fragile. I feel exhausted. And I don't know what to do next. TLDR, I, 27F, have been married to my husband, 31M, for 2 years, and I've known his brother Mark, 28M, for years. Mark's wife, Sarah, and I have never gotten along, mainly due to her jealousy and passive-aggressive behavior. After a traumatic miscarriage, Sarah showed no empathy, even accusing me of being jealous when she was pregnant and asked for baby items meant for my lost pregnancy. After a fight, Mark called me a bitch and my husband punched him. Now we've cut ties with them, but I'm still hurting and wondering if I could have done more to improve our relationship. On top of that, I suspect I might be pregnant again, and I'm scared of both the potential heartbreak and how Sarah might react. I'm conflicted about what to do next. Stories number 9. Aita for telling my friend her kid is a demon. I, 27F, I am currently having complications with a friend that we will call Karen, 28F, for this situation. So some context on the situation is I have a lot of kids, and I mean a lot, 3 weeks from due date currently. I'm also typically our friend group's trusted babysitter when anybody has something come up with their daycare. So I'm pretty used to an array of different personalities when it comes to kids in my everyday life. Myself and this friend have 2 very different parenting styles. I'm more communicative and personally don't believe in corporal punishment, as redirection explanations make more sense to me. She is more of the southern style of raise her voice. If you don't hear her the first time, you're gonna feel her hand on the second. That being said, I have finally came to the conclusion of I just can't watch her oldest kid anymore. I don't think I've ever met a more angry child before in my life, and I'm by no means blaming the child for his temperament, but it's just not something that I can personally handle anymore. He doesn't follow any sort of directions, even simple ones, without lashing out violently. He goes out of his way to physically hurt anything without any warning, and I mean anything. The cat, any child, big kid, adult, the freaking house plants. The scary part is he always laughs and then follows up with name-calling, swearing, or a lovely shrieking sound that would put any coyote to shame. I know this is really messed up to say, but it's like a rerun of the orphan movie IRL when dealing with this kid. Yesterday he walked up to me asking for a snack, and before I could even lift my head from washing dishes he slapped me as hard as he could. It took everything in me to keep from crying because that would obviously freak out my littlest babies in the house. I put him in my spare room, time out, away from the other kids so I could not only take a breath, but reduce the amount of damage that he was currently doing in that moment. Mind you, the situation is completely foreign to me because I can't even count how many kids I've watched over the years, and I've never found myself afraid of a kid. After the incident I called Karen and told her she needed to immediately come get her son and make other arrangements for him, but I could handle her youngest still to help her save money. She went on to say he's really not that bad, and she doesn't think it's fair that I've never said I wouldn't watch anyone else's kids. After months of having patience, I finally snapped and said, well, none of our other friends have kids that act like a literal demon. I asked her if he really wasn't that bad, then he had slapped me in the face, and why was he currently tearing apart my spare bedroom? If he was so easy to handle, then why do I have to constantly be in fear that he's gonna hurt not just me but another child in my care? She said she couldn't leave work and I needed to learn how to better manage the kids in my care. I was honestly so shocked and frustrated that I got on Facebook and messaged the father of her kids to come get them, even though I know it wasn't his day. I tried to call her again to let her know he was coming to get them, but she wouldn't answer her phone for myself or him. At 8 p.m. that night, 4 hours after she was supposed to be off, she showed up at my house looking for her kids. I told her they were with their father and her son's behavior has been reported to Dad. Now she's saying I potentially ruined her court case for primary custody because Dad had to pick up the kids and realized she was MIA with no idea that he even had the kids for hours. I told her it wasn't my fault and she had 2 breaks she could have called either of us back on, but chose not to. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, it's completely abnormal. The way your friend is raising her child wrong. The results of her sadistic upbringing can already be seen in her child's behavior. My opinion, your friend's child and the friend herself should be sent to a counselor before this escalates into something more horrible. You're doing a good job of identifying the problem. Absolutely NTA. Reply, honestly, that's the biggest reason that I told the dad all of it. If I'm being transparent, when they were still together the kid didn't display half of these tendencies. I know she's my friend, but as a mother, I will always choose to protect the kids. Social services in my area is extremely corrupt, so I'm really hoping the dad can get something going. Dad said he's gonna request a child lawyer to help advocate for the kids in court, and I told him I would write a written statement on the child's behavior. Commenter 2, the kid needs help and he won't get it unless it's reported. You know you did the right thing. Reply, the child lawyers in my area are amazing because they really do dive into the kid's life on a personal level. And I'm thankfully not in a mother-favoring state, so I'm feeling pretty confident Dad's going to get primary or possibly even full custody. Karen has changed a lot since the separation on a personal level, and her current personality is a lot to take in now. He on the other hand is still the same laid-back dude he's always been. His only weakness is not really knowing how to cook, and a few of us moms have the idea of making simple recipe cards meal ideas for him to utilize. Commenter 3, I can understand why you took the action you did. I mean the following criticism kindly, because I think it's something you need to work on for your own good. By saying this, I'm not suggesting you are the one at fault here. You've been a doormat and you've let your friend take advantage of you for way too long. You ought to have backed out of helping from the moment you realized that her son was a danger to you and your other children. I think it would be wise for you to look into why you are bending over backwards for people who don't appreciate you. Look after yourself more in future. Your friend is clearly in the wrong, both by not addressing this behavior and by taking advantage of you. It's outrageous of her to ignore calls from both you and her ex when she knew that there was a situation going on with her son. And unacceptable for her to turn up 4 hours later than she was supposed to. You haven't got the time in your life to deal with her or her drama. Put yourself and your own family first and focus on the baby you are about to have. The last thing you need right now is more stress. Reply, I think for the longest time I let it fly because I just wanted to believe that if I surrounded the kid with positivity that some positive changes would take place, but even having him as much as I do I'm just not seeing any signs of hope. Commenter 4, how old is this kid that he was able to slap you in the face? Is he tall for his age? Reply, the kid was 6. I was leaned over the sink washing dishes. I'm not a tall woman by any means, my 9-year-old is almost my height lol. Update, so do I have a wild ride for you guys? A ton has happened in the last week and some change, so I'm going to TLDR most of it. Dad got emergency custody the following morning after spending the night getting an emergency mental health evaluation at our local hospital. They kept the kid for 3 days and we took that time to help Dad get his house ready for primary parenting. The lawyer went my Karen's place on Monday for the unexpected home visit, and to put it bluntly there was a lot more going on than any of us realized. The kids' belongings were placed in a pile beside the couch where the kids have apparently been sleeping for the last month. One of the 5 bedrooms in her house is completely unlivable, and the 3 rooms outside of her own are being subleased to strangers. Yes, you're reading that right, she took away her children's rooms and put strangers in there. They also documented smells of burning plastic and urine throughout the household, and there is no pets in the home. She was directed to submit a drug test and as of now she still has not done that. I am absolutely mortified of the conditions those babies have been living in for months without any of us in the friend group realizing. It also makes sense because she stopped hosting get-togethers shortly after her separation, and we all just assumed she was taking time for herself. Now the icing on the cake. A lot of you warned me that she would likely try to lash out toward me, and you were right because she absolutely did. She tried to call social services claiming that I had an illegal daycare running in my home. Well, of course a social worker did show up, but thankfully the situation was clarified within the same day. I explained that 5 of the kids in my house were my own biological kids and the 2 others I was watching for my cousin without personal pay. Gave them receipts and my last couple bank statements as proof and should be getting a letter within the next week closing the case as unfounded. They have a hearing Friday to establish custody and the lawyer has already said it will go to Dad. Karen will get supervised visitation if she petitions for it. If anything changes or something else crazy happens, I'll definitely be updating again. But thank you guys, Yellow Heart. Relevant comments. OOP clarifies on Karen's husband's lawyer who went to her house and if the agencies will get involved. Reply, no, it's the kid's lawyer. Guardians ad liem or something like that is the proper term. But it's basically a person who represents the children from a neutral standpoint. As far as I know, social services will be getting involved because the dad does want to pursue neglect charges, but the dad did receive emergency custody, which means the concerns of a brief foster stay have been eliminated. Commenter 1, just curious, how does your bank statement demonstrate that you're not running a daycare? Reply, glad you asked. It just shows the $40 my cousin sends me each week to pick up diapers and formula for her kids' time here, and the receipts display where that $40 went. OOP explains about CPS in her state and if she was the one who contacted them. Editor's note, DSS equals Department of Social Services. Reply, I didn't personally contact DSS because in my area they are infamous for opening and closing a case without actually doing a thorough home visit. They will talk to you in your driveway, and as long as you bring the kids out and they lay eyes on them, it's good enough and they will close the case. I'm not exactly sure what the kid said in the hospital that got the emergency order granted, but it was enough for an emergency judge to both grant a child lawyer in custody to Dad overnight. OOP on the dad who has the emergency custody of the kids and Karen. Reply, Dad's a really great guy and honestly so was she until they separated. It's like she's a different person now. OOP on what she knows so far after the dad got involved with getting the kids away from Karen. Reply, Dad can't tell me exactly what the boys said at the hospital, but it's definitely a tip of the iceberg situation. We're all anxiously waiting for tomorrow, so hopefully he can give us an update after court. He has a written statement from me that I got notarized on Tuesday, but I made sure to add I would be open to coming to court to answer any other questions. After talking with a few of the girls last night, we're not really worried about how court will go tomorrow, we're more worried about if the judge is going to give her a period of time to get herself together. I mean, all of this stuff came out by sheer luck. What if she figures out how to cover her tracks better in the next 90 days? OOP explains why a lot of things have been done so much in a short time. Reply, yes. This whole situation has taken place over roughly the last week, with the main things occurring Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning. When emergency custody is given in my state, they typically try to get an official hearing within 7 days, so Friday will be the official custody hearing with the child lawyer's input. Stories number 10. Aita for supporting kicking out our temporary roommate because of what her parents did. I live with 2 other girls in a 3 BHK, which is owned by my parents. I've known these girls since college and we're all close. They both pay rent directly to my parents, but we don't have a formal agreement in place because we've always been chill. Last Wednesday one of my friends, Sophia, asked if a colleague of hers, let's call her Ava, can stay with us for a few weeks as she's running short on cash and her parents live a few hours away, and she needs a place to stay. We agreed that she can stay and only pay for utilities and no rent is required as such. Now us girls, 3 of us, usually stay in on Saturday night and drink, smoke, watch a couple of movies, the basic stuff. Ava asked to join in, we said sure, no problem, didn't even ask for any contribution for food, drinks, etc. But she got super drunk. We got her to Sophia's bed to sleep it off and came back to the living room. In the meantime apparently she didn't sleep and called her parents crying over everything that has been happening in her life. Her parents got very angry that she consumed alcohol, we didn't know they were conservative, and asked to speak the SLTS she was living with, and Ava handed over the phone to Sophia. They called her a bunch of names including a SL*T, someone who should be ashamed of being a woman because she drinks, she'll go to hell, that she brings disgrace to her parents and stuff like that. They also said that as long as Ava is living here we have to behave and not try to spoil their daughter, which also means no alcohol or boys or anything, the level of entitlement. Soph started crying post that, given that both her parents are highly orthodox as well and condemn her life choices frequently, maybe that's what Soph and Ava bonded over it. Anyway, next afternoon all 3 of us decided that Ava living here wouldn't work out and told her the same. We didn't force her or give a deadline for moving out, just said to find a new place. Not even 10 minutes later she came and handed over her phone to Sophia to talk to her dad as he was angry and wanted to talk to her. I took the phone from Ava and told her dad off, given that we were going to allow her to live here for weeks without even rent, and now he's the one to be blamed that his daughter is getting kicked out. And I also said a bunch of stuff about his colorful vocabulary the last night and what it says about him as a man. Ava did move out Sunday night and showed up in office on Monday, but she has been cold towards Sophia and told a bunch of their colleagues that Sophia kicked her out. Now I feel maybe I could have helped Ava by just shutting up maybe. Aita. Stories number 11. My family didn't let me say goodbye to my dying grandfather. Now I'm considering cutting ties. I just got off the phone with my grandmother, and I am truly at a loss for words. For some background, my parents have been divorced since I was a kid. My father relocated once I went to college, and my grandfather, my father's dad, started battling cancer shortly after my sophomore year. He and my grandmother were unable to attend my undergraduate or graduate school graduations because of his illness. My father on the other hand voluntarily skipped my graduate school graduation, citing how it wasn't that important because he already saw me walk across the stage once. This, coupled with years of emotional abuse and neglect, led me to the decision to go low to no contact with my father about 2 years ago. While my relationship with him has been strained, I tried my best to maintain a connection to my grandparents, despite the several states divide between us. My grandfather was a man of few words, but our conversations were always genuine. The last time I remember seeing my grandfather in person, which was before the stuff with my dad happened, he gave me a big hug before going to the airport, a kiss on the cheek, and told me he loved me. I would call multiple times a month checking in, asking about their well-beings, and would sometimes hear my grandfather, listening in on the other line. Each time I would ask my grandmother if I could speak to him, she would make up some reason as to why he couldn't come to the phone. She kept me up to date on his treatments, and I knew things were getting bad last summer. My mom and I were going to plan a trip to go visit my grandparents who live hundreds of miles away from me so I could say goodbye to my grandfather, as I had a feeling his time was coming. We didn't tell them of the trip and were going to do it as a surprise. The week before my mom and I were scheduled to fly out, I got a text from my aunt saying that my grandfather had passed. I was crushed. No viewing, no funeral, but they told me they were thinking of doing a celebration of life in the spring. They did cremate him, but no one other than my grandmother allegedly was present for it. I did call my dad to express my condolences, and he mentioned how my grandfather died disappointed in me because my father and I didn't speak anymore. This brings us to now. I called my grandmother to check in. She mentioned how she regrets and feels bad that I'm not as close to her and my grandfather as I am to my mom's parents, which is true, as for a period of time in my childhood, my mom and I lived with her parents. Growing up, we also lived about an hour away from them compared to the 12 to 14-hour drive it would take to see my dad's side of the family. The one that they see the most and interact with the most is more than likely the favorite grandchild. What? I have one other cousin on my dad's side, so was she implying I wasn't the favorite? But here's what made me skin crawl: she gave me a play-by-play of the weeks before my grandfather passed. Apparently, my grandfather had scheduled to do a medically assisted suicide, since the state they live in is a death with dignity state, 2 days after he had passed, which still would have been the week before my trip to see them. My dad, aunts, uncles, and cousin came the weekend before to spend time with him and say their goodbyes. No one had told me of my grandfather's plan. No phone call, text, email, nothing. Then, the day of my grandfather's passing, the doctors asked my grandmother and the family present if they would like to administer a medication to keep him alive just a few hours longer so that other family and friends who may not have been present could have the chance to say goodbye. They declined, saying how my grandfather wouldn't have wanted that. His intestines twisted up because of his medications and caused sepsis, so he was in an exorbitant amount of pain. My face went hot on the phone. I understand not calling on the day of his passing when there's a lot of chaos and you're trying to process your own grief in that moment, but the fact that there was a plan for him to peacefully go that week, and I could have had a chance to say goodbye, makes my blood boil. Why didn't someone call or text about his intentions? The countless times I asked on the phone to speak to him, why couldn't she just put him on the line once? I truly don't want to believe that my grandfather was disappointed in me, but I'm starting to question why I was so out of the loop. Is it because I'm not the favorite? It took every fiber of my being to not lash out and scream as my grandmother sobbed, recounting the story on the phone. I mustered up the strength to not break down and found a way to get off the phone with my grandmother. I don't know what to think, but my heart is telling me that I am no longer part of that side of the family. If there even is a celebration of life, at this point, I'm not sure I would want to go. My mom suggested I write in and get people to weigh in, but she is on my side. She's been great through all of this. So Reddit, Wibta, if I continue this no contact and extend it to my dad's whole side of the family after they refuse to let me contact my grandfather and say goodbye before he passed away. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I wonder how close your dad was to his parents, his mom, and how much they financially relied on him. If they were close, or if they were pretty financially dependent on him, he may have been working behind the scenes to manipulate them into keeping you out of the loop so you couldn't say goodbye. I'm so sorry for your loss and how you found out. And I'm even sorrier that your entire dad's side of the family failed you like they did. Reply, they are not financially reliant on my father. My grandfather was retired, maybe had a pension, but my grandmother also works. My father occasionally drove my grandfather to chemo appointments and doctor's appointments, but otherwise my grandmother and grandfather used their own insurance own earnings to pay for treatments. OOP explains about the progress of their grandpa's cancer. Reply, the cancer spread to his lungs, and he was on oxygen. My grandmother sometimes said his voice wasn't that strong and he had a hard time talking. Occasionally, I would hear a faint whistling on the other line. I just made it a point to say, okay, well just tell him I called. That I love him and miss him. I'm hoping if he was on the line those times, he heard that, and even if it was too laborsome to speak, he knew I cared about him. Commenter 2, your paternal grandmother sucks. It sounds like she was in charge. Commenter 3, your grandmother was gatekeeping your access to your grandfather. You can probably think of the reasons, but not being the favorite is not likely one of them. Jealousy, fear of financial loss, control freak, or she's a miserable old drama queen that likes a scapegoat. So sorry for your loss. Update. TLDR, I was denied being able to contact my grandfather before he passed by my dad's side of the family. I was considering no contact. I decided to call my aunt, the one who had notified me via text that my grandfather had passed in the first place. She, I figured, would be the most straightforward about everything. I didn't initially go into it with the whole, why didn't anyone call me so I could speak to him to say goodbye, but I wanted to get some answers. I wanted closure. I told her I was having a hard time understanding if he had a whole plan and I had numerous chances to talk to him, why I wasn't given the chance to. First, she let me know that she and seemingly her other siblings including my dad didn't know about my grandfather's wishes for a medically assisted death with dignity until after he had passed. She was consumed with her own grief of losing a father that she, or anyone, had the space to call me as they were still trying to process their own emotions regarding his death. Up until the very end, he wasn't thinking about anyone but himself. He was a very selfish man, she said. As far as the whole, grandfather died disappointed in you, she vehemently denied it and apologized for my father's ignorance. She validated my feelings but questioned how much better it would have felt for me to say my goodbyes. I can't say for certain if it would or wouldn't, but I can speak to how I feel and it sucks. My aunt insisted I didn't have that strong of a connection to him, and compared my relationship to the one she had with him and my grandmother did. Realistically, how much of a part of your life was he? I wouldn't let somebody that didn't have that much of an impact on your life while he was alive have an impact on your life now that he's gone. I would certainly hope that my relationship with my grandfather is different than my grandmother had with her life partner. My aunt then said I didn't need validation from my dad's side of the family with all that I've accomplished in my life, but she's here if I need to talk. I'm still not sure how to move forward, but I've been journaling, per the recommendation of my therapist. Specifically writing about my grandfather and I's relationship, and the relationship with my father has been helping me navigate my emotions, seeing it written in words. We're also adding more grief counseling topics into our sessions, so there's that. That's all I have for now. I guess be on the lookout if I ever publish a memoir. Thank you for your advice and words of wisdom. If there are any further updates, I'll be sure to share. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NaH. She is right. It was on your parents to call you, everybody else would rightfully assume that they would call you. And she is right with this, oh you can't have been that close with your grandpa, or you would have had the same info they had. When did you last talk to him? Reply, the last time I spoke to my grandfather on the phone was right after the graduate school graduation he couldn't attend because of his health. He and I used to chat frequently. I'd call at least twice a month to check in on his condition over the next year and a half after my graduation and the fight with my dad. My grandmother wouldn't let me talk to grandfather. Commenter 2, walk away, nothing she said made sense. She was too devastated to call you but he was such a monster. How much could it possibly mean to you? That's not her decision to make. Your dad with the disappointment comment. Thinking about himself, utterly selfish, but he forewent the week of last respects. Why wait the week then? There is a lot of toxic bull over that side, skip it. Commenter 3, oh sweetie. Your extended family and their opinions aren't things you have to do anything about. Your feelings and your grief about your grandpa are 100% normal and okay. You deserve all the time it takes to process this loss. It's exposed some toxicity and abuse in how the extended family, at least this aunt, communicate. Take all the time you need to fully process your thoughts and feelings about that, too. Stories number 12. Aita for telling my mom I can't make my baby suffer the way she and dad made my brother suffer. My husband and I, both late 20s, are going through our worst nightmare right now. After trying to conceive for 2 years and becoming pregnant with our very wanted baby, we have learned that our baby has a fatal fetal abnormality and have decided to end the pregnancy. This was not where we expected to be and it has been gutting. For me a little more because I have some experience with this. When I was a child my parents had another child, my brother. They learned he also had a fatal fetal abnormality and they refused to accept what the doctors said about the condition and they chose to carry to term and fight for him to survive regardless of what it put him through. He eventually died but by that time our family was traumatized watching him suffer like he did and my parents regretted their decision to make him suffer like that. Especially my dad who had been against it for longer than my mom had. I never blamed them though. I know originally they were given hope that children with my brother's condition didn't suffer badly even if they did survive for a year or two after birth. But my brother's condition was far worse than was typical and they just wanted to believe he'd be okay. But he wasn't. I still remember how much he suffered and I have carried that with me ever since. So knowing I have a baby with a fatal fetal condition also, knowing that the one my baby has is actually worse than what my brother had, and it's so incredibly rare to survive and that the few babies who have it and make it past birth suffer so much, knowing all that I cannot bring myself to carry to term. Everyone knew we were pregnant so we have been breaking the news to our inner circle. My dad has been the biggest support and offered us both 100% support. My ILs basically want us to get 100 second opinions until our baby is here anyway. They don't feel like we should just accept it. That we could be aborting a perfectly healthy baby and just because 3 different doctors agree with the diagnosis and prognosis, it doesn't mean we should believe it. Then there's my mom. Even after everything she is pushing me to carry to term. She has tried to get me to cancel the appointment several times a day. I had to stop answering her calls. The day is only 2 days away now and she is not supporting me. Instead she's taking a very strong anti-abortion stance that was unexpected after everything. I have tried to explain to her in the nicest way I can manage that we feel it's for the best and this feels the kinder approach for the baby we love desperately and wanted more than we could express. But she's pushing back and saying how we should let nature take its course and have a chance to meet our first baby. She snapped at me yesterday and told me I'm giving up too easily and how could I live with myself if I follow through and kill my baby. It made me angry and I told her I can't make my baby suffer the way she and dad made my brother suffer. I told her watching him go through that made me swear I would never. That I would be selfless and instead of selfish because I'm not the one who has to live with that kind of pain and suffering. My mom looked like I slapped her and she told me throwing that back in her face was low and my situation did not excuse it. I never wanted to throw it in her face but the truth is that's how things happened and it shaped how I feel about this. More than anything I don't want my baby to die. I want my baby to grow up and live a happy life. But my baby will die. My baby will die very young and will suffer if they survive the birth. I have done my research. I have talked to parents who went through this with the same condition. I have spoken to the professionals. I know what will happen. But I know what I said to my mom hurt her so much. And I want to know if I'm TA for it. Stories number 13. Aita for refusing to work with my ex and telling him I don't need to ask his permission to do things with our son. My ex and I have an 11-year-old son together. We have a 60-40 custody split because of his job requirements. My ex got married 3 years ago and he has a 10-year-old stepdaughter who lives with him full-time. Our son and my ex's stepdaughter do not get along the best. For a while my ex and his wife decided to let things develop naturally but for around a year now they have grown concerned that the kids have not grown closer, appear to dislike each other more, and so they started pushing the kids together more. This is not something I know a lot about. I don't interfere when my son is with his dad, unless it was something harmful to my son. Just like I expect him to do the same. Not too long ago I took my son to see a movie he really wanted to see. It was him and 3 of his friends. We had a great time. My ex flipped when he found out. He told me he had warned the kids they were going to see it together. He told me I should have asked when I knew he was working on their relationship. He said I should be working with him here. I told him to hold up, that I was not about to ask permission to take my son to a movie. He told me that's not working with him. That I should be making sure he doesn't want that saved for a bonding experience with both kids. He said our son manipulated me when I wasn't told he and his wife were planning to take both kids to that movie and had said something. I asked him what our son thought about that and he admitted our son hadn't wanted to go, and told him as much. He told me they need to do this stuff together or they'll never try. I told him I do not need to ask his permission to do things with our son and I will not ask his permission. He accused me of not working with him. That I want their blended family to fail. I don't. But I don't want to deprive our son of fun stuff with me because he wants them to be sacred for his time only. And I don't want our son to be miserable doing all the fun stuff because he's forced to do it with the stepsister he doesn't like. And I think it's crazy to expect me to ask permission. Especially when I have our son more. Stories number 14. Aita for asking my husband not to go on a trip with a woman who openly flirts with him, and feeling betrayed when he did anyway. Hi everyone, I'm a 32F and I've been married to my husband, let's call him Joe, for 8 years, together for 10. In all that time, we've always prioritized each other's emotional well-being. If something hurt one of us, we didn't do it again, no matter what. We valued having a happy spouse more than being right. Because of this, my love and trust for him grew immensely. I was certain he'd never do anything that would break my heart, but here I am, heartbroken and disappointed. Joe owns a company, and we work together. Financially, we're in a great place. Recently, through Joe's father, we got the chance to bid for a major government contract, a massive opportunity. Due to its scale, several companies are teaming up, and one key company involved, without whom the deal won't happen, is led by a very attractive, flirty woman. She's the CEO and has openly flirted with Joe in front of me. We both noticed her behavior, and in order to avoid misunderstandings or conflict, we decided to work on the bid together. Things were okay until one meeting where, during a break, she touched Joe's arm and said something like, "If I had a husband like you, I'd never leave his side. You're someone every woman wants, but sometimes even that's not enough, someone else might steal your mind." I snapped and responded, "I'm not following him, he just never leaves my side." She brushed it off as a joke, but I know it wasn't. I saw the look in her eyes, and women just know. Later, I talked to Joe about it. He admitted she was crossing a line and that he was uncomfortable, but didn't react strongly to avoid jeopardizing the deal. I wasn't thrilled, but I tried to understand. Then today, I found out that I was excluded from a 3-day site visit for the bid, a trip requested by that woman. Only 5 people are going, and Joe is one of them. When I heard, I told him I was extremely uncomfortable with this, and asked him not to go. I begged, actually. I said the deal wasn't worth this. We're financially stable and don't need this contract. But he went anyway. Even after everything I said, he left without me. Something broke in me. I trusted him with my whole heart. I truly believed he'd never choose anything over my peace of mind. Now I feel like he did. He left me behind. And it hurts so deeply that part of me doesn't even care anymore. If he comes back, if he ends up with that woman, I feel numb. A part of me says, come on, 10 amazing years, don't throw it all away. Another part wants to take off my wedding ring, send him a photo, and file for divorce. So, Aita for asking him not to go. And how do I even begin to deal with these emotions? Update, Ada for asking my husband not to go on a trip with a woman who openly flirts with him, and feeling betrayed when he did anyway. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who shared their thoughts. I wanted to update you on what happened since yesterday. I did something I never thought I'd do. I drove to the place where my husband and his team were staying. Yes, I know, desperate and honestly not like me at all. But jealousy and love can make people do wild things. It was only a 3-hour drive. On the way, Joe kept calling and texting, but I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't want to say something I'd regret later. When I arrived at the hotel, I didn't let him know. Inspired by some of your comments suggesting hiring a PI, I wanted to see things for myself. I just needed to know, if something was happening, I wanted to witness it with my own eyes. When I got there, the group of 5 was sitting together in the lounge. They seemed to be having a good time, Joe included. But importantly, Joe was sitting far from her, so there was no chance of physical contact. He was engaging in the conversation but still texting me non-stop. From afar, he looked like he was chatting with someone, but it was actually me. Please answer me, don't be mad, talk to me. I had planned to just observe. But I couldn't take it. There was a cafe near the hotel, so I went there and messaged Joe to meet me. He showed up smiling and hugged me tightly. I was supposed to be strong, to demand answers, but the moment he held me, I just started crying like an idiot. He comforted me for a while. Then I finally asked the question I should have asked earlier, and many of you pointed out why didn't he bring me along. Not as a team member, but as his wife. He said it was because I was already very upset at how she excluded me, and he thought bringing me might escalate the tension. According to him, he's been handling her flirty behavior by keeping it light and not letting it cross any lines. Joe believes this woman isn't even after him, she's competing with me. He said some people feed off of making others uncomfortable, and she's one of them. She chose you as a rival, he said. It's not about me, it's about her wanting to disturb you to feel powerful. That sounds a bit off to me, honestly. She's a successful CEO. She's already powerful. Still, he insisted that he's been keeping his distance and not giving her any encouragement. He said he didn't think this trip would affect me this deeply, and reminded me that over 10 years, I've seen women hit on him before, but this is the first time someone has gotten under my skin like this. He also opened up about how important this contract is to him. He doesn't want to disappoint his father, and he feels like we might never get another opportunity like this. He asked me to trust him. We went back to the hotel together and had breakfast. To be honest, I am not as angry as I was the day before. I didn't even mention divorce during our conversation. I'm still upset, yes, but the heartbreak I felt has eased. I don't know if it's normal, but the sharp pain has been replaced by a strange calm. Tonight, we'll have dinner together as a group. Stories number 15. Aita for refusing to do my boyfriend's laundry after he told his mom I don't do anything around the house. So, I, 26F, live with my boyfriend, 28M. We've been together for 3 years, living together for 1. We both work full-time, but I also cook, clean, do laundry, grocery shop, handle bills, take care of our cat. He'll sometimes take out the trash or wash a dish, but that's about it. I've brought it up before, and he says he'll try to do more, but never really follows through. Last weekend, we visited his parents for dinner. Out of nowhere, his mom says to me, "So, what do you actually do around the house?" Boyfriend's name, says you're not really the domestic type. I literally just blinked at her. I laughed awkwardly and said, "Well, if by not domestic you mean I do everything, then sure." She didn't even laugh. He looked embarrassed but didn't say a single word to defend me. On the way home I asked him what that was about and he said, "I just meant you don't really enjoy housework." Dude. Who does? I was mad. He apologized lightly and said it was just a joke. So I decided to take a little break from his laundry. I stopped doing his clothes completely. Didn't say a word, just folded mine and left his in the basket. A week passed. Then 2. I could see his pile growing. Finally he asked, "Are you mad again or something? You haven't done my laundry." I just said, "I thought you said I don't do anything around the house, so I figured I'd live up to the label." Now he's saying I'm being petty and immature, and even his mom texted me saying I should let it go already. I told her I'd be happy to let it go, right into the washing machine with the rest of his responsibilities. So. Aita. Stories number 16. Aita for divorcing my husband after he told me he wanted a divorce while he was blackout drunk at the hospital. Hi guys. My 34F husband, 33M, of 8 years has had a drinking problem that has worsened since our son was born just over a year ago. We went couples counseling where he agreed he would stop drinking, prompted by my request when he left me and my 4-month-old son to go on a bender for 2 weeks. He left abruptly, unplanned, and drunk drove through the mountains for 13 hours to visit his brother. He ran out of gas and had to be picked up by said brother 10 hours into his drive. While he was away, he said he was drinking a fifth a day. Upon returning from his bender, he didn't drink for 3 months, but started abusing a new Adderall prescription. 2 days after Christmas, 3 months after the bender, our son got RSV and had to go to the emergency room and then stay in PICU for a week. My husband showed up to PICU drunk to the point where the nurses noticed something was off. During this time, he demanded a divorce, said he was going to take our son half the time, and move out of the house. He also said I made him want to kill himself. He screamed at me in his car and punched the steering wheel. This happened several times during my son's stay in the PICU. Once my son got out of PICU, I was scared and filed for divorce and motion to suspend custody. Before filing, I asked my husband multiple times if he would consider going to rehab, but every time he said no. After filing for divorce, we were required to go to court where they granted the motion to suspend custody. Since then, he has gotten a DUI and still refuses treatment. Lately, he has started saying I'm a monster for destroying our family and that I shouldn't have filed for divorce while he was in an alternate state of mind. He said he didn't actually want to get divorced and didn't remember anything from being blacked out at the PICU. I know that he has a problem, but I wonder if I should have waited to file for a divorce since he was on another bender when I filed. Aita. Stories number 17. Aita for laughing at ex and his new wife when they suggested to change my son's school. I have a 10-year-old son Tyler with my ex. I have primary custody and he gets him on weekend. We had co-parented well so far. I am from Asia, where private schools are only good mode of education. I decided not to marry till my son is gone to college. I am a banker, so I earn well for both of us and the CS I get, I put it in his savings. I also pay for his private school which cost a lot. But I can afford it. My ex got married to Lila last year and she brought 2 kids. One is 10 and in same grade as my son. Second is 8. My son already feels his father has taken away their 1:1 by time with the other children. As most activities are group activities. And he gives zero time to son alone. Stepmom also tried to parent him and he hates it. Kids are cordial but don't see each others as siblings. So this weekend X and his wife invited me to dinner. I went and after dinner, they told kids to go to room to have discussion with me. They said they can't afford same private school for the other kids. And for equality of kids, they need to pull my son out of school. They told how beneficial it will be the elder step kid and my son to be in same school and class. I was pissed and laughed at them. I told their financial issues aren't my problem and I am not changing my son's school. They doubled down. But I stood firm and took my son back. Since then they are blaming that I want their family to fail and how my son doesn't talk to other kids much. I told them developing the relationship between kids is X's job, not mine. I don't badmouth them or the other kids. But I don't see it as my responsibility to grow their relation on his dad's side. Second, if father is going to put his new kids over his own, it is what leading to Tyler being distant with other kids. They are calling me asshole and his new wife said to me, for Tyler she isn't going to deny her kids a father. I told her that she is no less than evil step monster. Edit. I forgot to add. Because kids won't have equal things. My son already have more branded things which I can afford and my parents buy him a lot of things. As I am only child and he is their only grandchild. He is pampered a lot by my side and they have issue with that too. I won't deny my kids good things because they can't afford for her children. Regarding 1:1. X said our son needs to adjust for his new siblings and it is family time, winky face. Edit. Someone is copying my comments. Saw 2 accounts doing. It's not me. Stories number 18. My roommate sent me a condescending checklist and then lost her mind when I stood up for myself. I, F22, live with a roommate, F27, who, frankly, barely cleans. I'm the one who's constantly wiping counters, taking out the trash, doing dishes, cleaning up after her dog when she doesn't, all while working full-time and trying to keep the peace. I don't nitpick, I don't complain every time I clean something up. I just try to do my part, and sometimes hers, so the place stays livable. But the one time she finally decides to clean, and by clean, I mean wipe the stove and toss out some trash, she texts me this long message while I'm at work. Not to have a conversation, but to give me a passive-aggressive list of reminders about wiping the stove after I use it, putting my drinks away, emptying the dishwasher before she needs it, and sticking to some decor-only counter rule that she mentioned once forever ago like it was a binding contract. She even made a weird point to say she cleaned out oil and asparagus in the trash, like that was some noble act that needed public acknowledgement. The message was condescending, and it honestly caught me off guard. I told her I got the message, and while I understood being overwhelmed, the delivery was unnecessary. I reminded her that I've been pulling my weight, and cleaning up after her and her dogs more than she probably realizes. I said if we're going to start keeping tabs, I'll just stop cleaning up her messes too. I also said her burnout isn't mine to carry, that we both live here, and I shouldn't have to walk on eggshells or be guilt-tripped just because I'm in the same space. She came back defensive, accusing me of overreacting, saying she was just asking me to pick up after myself, and called me a little girl for having feelings about how she talked to me. Then we ended up fighting in person, where she kept gaslighting me, telling me I was delusional, and twisting everything I said. I snapped and called her a bitch. Not proud of it, that part crossed the line, and I owned it. I sent her a respectful apology for the name-calling. I told her I shouldn't have said that, but I stood by the boundary I was setting. I let her know I wasn't going to keep going in circles, and that all I wanted was for us to live respectfully and decently, nothing more. Her response: "You fucked up real bad. You're going to want to bite your tongue next time, little girl. You extremely crossed the line beyond my boundaries. Keep your apology and stick it up your ass, delusional bitch. Don't stop going to therapy either." So, that's where we are now. I guess I struck a nerve. I've been trying to be the adult, do my share, and not make everything a thing. But the one time I speak up and set a boundary, I'm suddenly the problem. She acts like I'm a monster for reacting to her disrespect, when all I've been doing is trying to live peacefully in a space we both pay for. I'm tired of walking on eggshells around people who can dish it but lose their minds when it's handed back to them. I'm not perfect, but I've been fair. I've tried. And now I'm just done. Thanks for letting me get that out. Update: my roommate sent me a condescending checklist and then lost her mind when I stood up for myself. Hey everyone, first off, thank you so much for the love and support on my last post. I didn't expect it to get so much attention, and honestly, reading your comments really helped me feel less alone. Life has been chaotic, and I wanted to give an update on where things stand. A couple of days after the fight with my roommate, where she disrespected me after I apologized, I slowly started moving my stuff back into my room. One of those things was my Snapware Pyrex set from Costco. I had originally let her use it, but it's mine, and I always intended to take it with me when I moved out. Anyway, I found one of them in the fridge with some soggy chicken that had clearly been sitting there for days. It looked gross, so I tossed it. When she got home and realized I threw away her food, she got super mad and started loudly talking shit about me on the phone to whoever she was talking to. I ignored it and just went to bed. The next morning while I was showering and getting ready, she starts yelling at me asking where the trash bags are. I asked, which ones, because I had bought the last pack, and there was no way we had finished them. She starts gaslighting me saying they were hers from the shop, whatever that means. I was too tired for the drama, so I just gave her the trash bags and told her not to use my stuff anymore. She flipped and said I was unbearable to live with, that I should just leave, and that she wanted me gone. So, I said, you know what? Fine. I'll leave. Later that day, I went to the leasing office to explain the situation. They gave us 3 options. We both transfer to separate units. We break the lease early. I drop my name from the lease, pay a fee, and she shows proof, pay stubs, that she can afford rent on her own. Later that night, she texted me asking, do you want to leave or do you want me to? I said I'll leave. I told the leasing office and asked them to follow up with her for the pay stubs so we could move forward. That same day, I went to tour an apartment I had been eyeing. It was the exact unit I wanted, and I applied immediately. Fast forward to today, I got approved. I'm moving in tomorrow, but here's where it gets messy again. A few days ago I asked the leasing office if they'd received her pay stubs. They said no, even though they'd asked her 3 times and she kept saying she'd email them. She never did. So today, I texted her again letting her know I'm moving out and that the leasing office still needs her pay stubs. She responds, I can't. I asked, what do you mean you can't? She says she can't send them or she can't afford it, which she never expressed that she couldn't afford it. I honestly still don't know what she meant. I reminded her this was the option she agreed to, and if she wanted to stay, this was what needed to happen. I told her again, I'm moving out. If you want to stay here, that's on you. Then she says, let's just break the lease then. I told her I can't afford that, which is why we agreed I'd just leave and she'd stay. She responds, I don't care about ruining my credit. I left her undelivered after that. Then 30 minutes later, she goes, I guess I'll have to leave too then. I honestly don't know if she's just being petty, playing games, or genuinely doesn't understand the situation. But tomorrow, I'm going back to the leasing office to sort it out once and for all. I feel stuck and frustrated, but I'm also so ready to get out of this toxic situation. Wish me luck. Any advice is welcome. Thanks again to everyone who's been following this journey, it means more than you know. Stories number 19. My $70,000 college debt was just forgiven. I received a letter in the mail a couple of nights ago from the private bank my family and I borrowed from to get me through college. Since graduating college 7 years ago, we went into default with the payments, destroying mainly my credit, since the loans were in my name. A couple of nights ago, we received notice that since they are no longer in the student loan business, they have forgiven the remainder amount, leaving me with one single federal loan left to pay off. This was something that was weighing on me every single day. I was terrified my parents, and I even, were going to die with an insurmountable debt to their names, and now we can breathe a little bit lighter. Edit. I thank you guys so much for all the helpful information. I'm aware now that I may still need to pay taxes, since it was a private loan, and since now it's considered taxable income. The loan may have been sold, but I was not made aware of it. Discover can wipe their hands clean and nothing can come of it, if it is sold, and I don't continue to pay it. Thanks so much for all the help and well wishes. Edit 2, sorry for the many edits. I have my bachelor's in English, non-fiction writing and I am currently a paralegal. I left the letter at my parents' house. I do not live at home, but I have texted them to send it over and I will redact and upload once I have a moment. Stories number 20. I found a hidden room in my apartment and my landlord had no idea it existed. I moved into my current apartment about 6 months ago. It's an old building in a city where quirky basically means falling apart but with character. The rent was cheap, the location was good and the place had these weird, old-school built-in closets and thick walls. About a month ago, I was rearranging my bedroom and decided to finally deal with this awkward, nailed-shut panel in the back of my closet. Curiosity got the better of me, so my boyfriend grabbed a hammer and pried it open. Behind it another wall. But the wall sounded hollow. I tapped around and found a loose section. After some serious effort, and a lot of dust, my boyfriend managed to break through. Behind the wall was a tiny, windowless room, maybe the size of a large walk-in closet. It was empty except for an old wooden chair and a stack of yellowed newspapers from the 1970s. I freaked out a little but eventually called my landlord to ask about it. He was just as surprised as I was. He'd owned the building for like 20 years and had no idea there was a hidden room. He came over, checked it out, and we both just stood there, weirded out but also kind of fascinated. I ended up cleaning out the space and turning it into a reading nook. However, I still wonder who built the room and why they sealed it up. Stories number 21. Aita for refusing to repay my ex-husband for the college tuition he paid for years ago. So for some background, my ex-husband and I ended things over 20 years ago. When our son was 2, he stepped out. At the time I was a stay-at-home mom and going to nursing school full-time. He was paying for my schooling. After he left, I asked him if he would keep paying for my school so I could finish with no debt. He agreed, saying it was the least he could do. A few months after that, he got his affair partner pregnant. Once she got pregnant, she demanded he stop paying for my schooling. It was 1/5 of their income and she said that money needed to go towards their new baby. He refused and kept paying for the remaining year and a half I had left. Over the years I continued my education and now I'm a nurse practitioner. I do well for myself and I never remarried. On to the problem. My son called me and told me he and his wife are expecting. I was ecstatic. I asked if I could come over sometime during the weekend by and give them some things, his favorite stuffy as a child, a check, and some other small sentimental things. He said yes, so I went over earlier today. I came by and gave him everything, including a check for a few $1,000s. For baby stuff, co-pays, the nursery, or anything else they may want. My son and his wife thanked me and told me the money would be very helpful. My ex-husband and his wife came over and little while later, they surprised them with dinner and didn't know I'd be there, and saw the check on the counter. My ex's wife asked about it and I said, oh well, I wanted to help out where I could, everything's so expensive nowadays. I was really just trying to be polite, but I don't think this is any of her business. This woman had the audacity to say, well, maybe since you have all this money now you can finally pay us back all that money you took when you went to college. I was dumbfounded. My ex has literally never brought up me paying him back. He's always said it was the least he could do for both me and our son. My ex has done very well for himself in his career. I didn't see how or why they'd need the money, so I asked them, do you guys need the money or something? And my ex said no, and she said, of course not, it's about principle. I told her I will absolutely not be paying them back for college tuition from over 20 years ago, especially when she ended up in our marital home while I was living in a small apartment barely making ends meet for years after I initially finished school. I've never been bitter or mean, I've always been civil since our kids are siblings, but my blood was boiling. I left shortly after that. According to my son, this has been a point of contention in their marriage. She's brought it up a few times over the years in front of him. And she's insisting to him that he needs to convince me to finally pay back what they're owed. The biggest issue is now that the whole damn family is involved. I got calls from 3 separate family members saying I need to get over myself and just pay it back. So Aita here. Update, Aita for refusing to repay my ex-husband for the college tuition he paid years ago. So first I want to clarify some things. Yes, it was our marital home, we bought it after getting married. I didn't fight so hard for it in the divorce for a few reasons, mostly that she was borderline harassing me about how they needed the house for their growing family. I also didn't want to deal with a longer and more drawn-out divorce, and it would have been if I fought for the house. Yes, he bought me out of the house, however it really wasn't much as it was late 2007. Most of it went towards credit card debt anyway. Another thing, when he was paying for my schooling we were still legally married. The divorce didn't finalize until after I graduated. There was no child support until after I graduated. There was never any alimony. I did live in the house while I was in school and they lived in an apartment. He paid all those bills including hers after she got pregnant. So his finances were tight at the time. The family that called weren't my relatives. They were my ex's and his wife's relatives. I thought they were family, they've since been blocked. On to the update. I got off work yesterday to find a few missed calls from my son. When I called him back he tells me that his stepmom has now asked for the money from the check since it was almost the same amount they spent on my college. She said it was obvious I'd never pay my debts and that I would just give him, my son, more money anyways. I'm stunned. I'm pissed. I don't know what has possessed her to think to ask my son for money intended for his family. I tell my son to ignore her and I'll handle it, so next I call my ex. It goes straight to voicemail. I try again a few minutes later and it's the same thing. So I reluctantly call my ex's wife and she answers immediately. I tell her the three of us, my ex, her, and me, need to meet first thing in the morning to discuss the debt. I'm thinking this needs to happen in person with all three of us so there's no confusion. She agrees. This morning we met at a coffee shop near my ex's work. As soon as they sit down I say, so, ex's wife, want to tell me why you think it's appropriate to ask my son for money? My ex looks at her and says, you asked, our son, for money. She starts, on about how she was only asking for the money they're owed, and she didn't ask for more than was on the check. Then she says, for years we struggled due to paying for your school. For years we couldn't afford a new car, a new house, or a nanny. My kids had to share a room. She goes on about her struggles. I started to tune her out because I keep thinking there's no way she's this deluded. It may have been inappropriate but I laughed. I literally took out thousands in credit card debt to keep me and my son afloat while my at the time husband was shacking up with her and paying her bills. My ex looks at her and says, what the hell, ex's wife. I added, it's laughable you think you're owed anything from while you were a mistress. We were married when he paid for my schooling, it's quite literally none of your business how he chose to spend money. You had zero entitlement to his money until you said, I do, and from what I recall that wasn't until years after the divorce was even finalized. Do not contact me or my son about this money again. You will never see a dime from me. She rolls her eyes and gets up to leave. My ex tells her he's going to stay for a minute. After she's gone he asks why I didn't just call him and tell him about what was going on, said he would have handled it and that it didn't have to go this far. I say I did call him, twice actually, and this is how we figured out she blocked my number from his phone. So those of you who said she's just very insecure, you were absolutely correct. I tell him that she involved his sister, cousin, and his sister-in-law. That I got several calls and texts from them telling me I should just pay back my debt finally. I tell him that she involved the family and then asked our son for money intended for his baby. She's crossed too many lines. He apologizes and says he'll make sure she doesn't bother me about it again. We both leave after that. My son told me he blocked her number and doesn't want her at his house until she apologizes. That's pretty much it for now. Stories number 22. I laughed in my dad's face after my mom turned down his marriage proposal. Something important before starting is that I'm 27M and my parents never married. My paternal grandfather married my grandma after she got pregnant with his first son, my dad, and when the second baby came he found out it wasn't his, but couldn't divorce her because our family was extremely religious, not anymore, and divorce would not be in the table for him since it would mean all his family would cut him off, and he stayed with her until she passed away. My dad, that saw how unhappy his father was and how it affected his own life and his half-siblings too, decided he wouldn't marry until he had 2 kids of his own blood with his girlfriend. To be fair, he did talk with my mom about it and initially she was okay with it since she understood how it affected him. I honestly somehow do too, but it still seemed unfair to my mom, but as a kid I didn't understand at the time and as a teenager I didn't feel in the right to butt in or say anything. Well, my parents had me and we're happy, but there were no marriage plans yet, but it was fine, they just needed to have another child. So they tried for years, and years, and years, and now here we are, his only son almost in his 30s and they are still not married. My mom had fertility issues but she wasn't infertile, and they attempted to get pregnant for many years despite the difficulties, but they never could. My mom suggested to go for adoption but it didn't align with my dad's the self-imposed rule of having 2 biological children with his partner to marry, so he declined. They eventually stopped trying and seemed okay together. But my mom constantly asked to get married since they were together since high school, but my dad did not want that because he wanted to marry after having 2 children, which was now off the table, so eventually my mom gave up and stopped asking. With that said, there was never an issue out of it that affected me directly until a few years ago. See, as I'm an only child my parents kind of expected me to give them grandchild, and when my parents, or should I say my dad, decided to stop trying for another baby they agreed that they would marry when I have my own child. I didn't know it until 2 years ago, because a few years ago I came out as gay and evidently I won't have any biological kids. I don't discard the possibility of adoption but it's not in my plans and my dad wanted a bio grandson. So, unintentionally, I destroyed that last hope of them helping raising my child to finally get married, although I know it's not my fault, but my dad's ridiculous norm he had for himself, so I don't feel one bit guilty or any remorse. At this point my mom doesn't even care about marriage anymore. She is 58, and even before I revealed I was gay she didn't think she would ever get married to my dad because of how much he seemed to have in his requirements to compromise. A few days ago my parents, 2 of my aunts, my uncle, my dad's half-brother, and me were celebrating my mom's birthday, and she was having a nice time, she was smiling a lot and we were giving her our gifts for her to open in the spot. When it was my dad's turn, it was one of the first gifts, she opened it and it was a small box. No, it wasn't a rings box, it was like the size of a necklace box so it wasn't that obvious at the moment. And when she opened it there was a paper that said, "Would you marry me?" She turned to my dad, who was getting in one knee, taking out an engagement ring out of his pocket, and waiting for my mom's response, who was looking at him with a strange look. It almost seemed made me laugh by how serious she was. She looked at him, then at my family, who were visibly more shocked than her. I was too, but I was just staring blankly, so apparently no one other than my dad knew about his proposal plans, and she just said, let's not spoil the moment right now, let me open the rest of the gifts. My dad apparently was shocked by how indifferent my mom was and sat down without saying anything while my mom went back to cheerfully open the rest of her gifts, and the rest of the family was also enthusiastic about it, maybe a bit too excessively, but I guess it was to avoid thinking of the awkward moment that just happened. And after enjoying the meal we all went to our homes. Well, that was 2 days ago, and today my dad asked if he could come to my home and I said yes, though he was gonna vent about what happened at my mother's birthday, and I was totally right. He cried a bit, stating how he had planned to propose to my mom after thinking a lot about it, that he was now ready and that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her, that he couldn't believe he humiliated him like that in front of the family, and the whole time I had to keep my straight face. But it was so difficult because of my dad's nonsense until he said the last phrase and I couldn't hold back anymore and starting laughing my ass off. Obviously, he got mad and asked me why I was making fun of him. I don't hate my dad, but I was a little too mean to him and said a lot of stuff I didn't say as a teenager and even as an adult because it wasn't my business how they handle their relationship. To summarize, I told him something like, I don't know what you expected after leaving my mom waiting for almost 40 years for a proposal. You didn't need to wait for her to get pregnant again just because that old hag was a cheater. Or did you think my mom was a cheater too? If she was a cheater, why did you stay? If you knew she wasn't, what was the point of that stupid goal of having 2 children to prove she wasn't having an affair? And I kept going off on him for like 40 minutes, he was so shocked I raised my voice to him since I have never done that to anyone. He stayed quiet during my whole rant and when I finished he just avoided looking at me and simply apologized. I gave him some coffee before he left so he would calm down and possibly talk to my mom. I think they will get married, but I was so annoyed that he decided to do it at the worst moment, in the worst place, and in front of everyone, and then complained he felt humiliated as if my mom wasn't waiting for him for decades for him to not even consider marriage until they got old. Bruh. I just wanted to rant, sorry for the long text lol. Stories number 23. AIO for threatening to take my sister to court after her toddler destroyed my $2,000 gaming setup because she said I should've baby-proofed my apartment. I'm F25 and I'm honestly at my breaking point with this one. I need outside perspective because my entire family is acting like I'm Hitler for standing my ground. So, I, 25F, am a student software developer and a pretty serious PC gamer in my free time. I live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment that I've spent years making cozy and functional. I saved up for a long time to build my dream PC setup: triple monitors, custom mechanical keyboard, ergonomic chair, the works. Altogether, my rig is worth a bit over $2,000, and I take care of it like it's a damn child. Last weekend, my older sister, 30F, asked if she could crash at my place for one night because her apartment was being fumigated, and her husband was out of town. She has a 3-year-old son, Max, who's, let's say, spirited. I love him, but he's a little chaos goblin. I hesitated, but she swore she'd keep an eye on him and that it'd just be for one night. They show up Saturday afternoon, and immediately it's clear she wasn't kidding about Max being a handful. Within 10 minutes of arriving, he'd pulled 4 books off my shelf, thrown my houseplants on the floor, and spilled juice on my area rug. I tried to stay chill. He's 3, I get it, but I asked my sister politely to please keep him out of my office, where my PC setup is. She rolls her eyes and goes, he's just exploring, he's curious, it's normal. But she closes the office door anyway. Cut to Sunday morning. I wake up to screaming. Max had apparently woken up before his mom, managed to open the office door, and decided my setup was his new jungle gym. He pulled down one of my monitors, cracking the screen. He stuck crackers into the PC tower's ventilation slots, I'm not kidding, yanked out my keyboard's keycaps, and had colored on my chair with permanent marker. The cherry on top. He poured apple juice into the tower. Into it. When I tell you I went silent. I mean dead silent. My sister comes in, sees the damage, and just says, "Oh no," in this incredibly flat tone, like someone knocked over a cup of coffee. I start freaking out, and she has the audacity to say, "You should have baby-proofed the room if it was that important to you." I lost it. I told her that 1, she knew he wasn't supposed to be in there, 2, this is my space, not a damn daycare, and 3, baby-proofing a $2,000 gaming setup is not a standard requirement for adults living alone. She told me to calm down and said that he's just a kid, and stuff is replaceable. I told her she could replace it then. She said she didn't have the money right now, but maybe in a few months she could give me a few hundred. I told her that wasn't acceptable and that she needed to take full responsibility. She left in a huff and now my whole family is blowing up my phone. My mom says I'm being materialistic and should understand that my nephew didn't mean it. My dad said I should have locked the door if it was that important. My brother actually said, "Why do you even need 3 monitors anyway? That's kind of overkill." I filed a claim with my insurance but there's no guarantee it'll be covered since it was technically guest damage. I also told her that if she does not pay up, I'll take her to court for what happened. Now I'm getting texts from my sister demanding an apology for blaming her kid for being curious. I told her I'd drop it if she covered the cost of repairs and replacements, or at least met me halfway, and she blocked me. So, am I overreacting if I take my sister to court over this? Update, wow. Just wow. 4 hours later, I wake up from my nap to this. Thank you guys, it'll take a bit for me to read all of this. My sister still has not unblocked me, but her husband reached out to find out what happened. I'm sorry I don't have more to tell yet, but I'll update again when I do. Seriously, thanks for the insights everyone. My head is a lot clearer now. Update 2, hey all. My sister's husband reached out as mentioned earlier, and we're working out a solution if possible. He's been really understanding as have all of you. Also, to clarify the office situation, my 1-bedroom apartment is on the smaller side, 33 square meters 355 square feet, so the landlord converted an old ex-clothes cabinet into a makeshift office. It's weird, but the building is from the 40s, and they had to get creative with the space with an old tenant or something. So it's living room, sister and her kid slept there, plus kitchen, I slept there, plus the office. Thanks for all the support. And the award. I really don't have the words for how nice people have been in both DMs and the comments. Update, AIO for threatening to take my sister to court after her toddler destroyed my $2,000 gaming setup because she said I should have baby-proofed my apartment. Hey again, just wanted to post a quick update since it's been a little under a week and a few people asked what happened next. Things are better, pretty fucking weird, and still ongoing, but here's where we're at. Last Saturday, my brother-in-law, BL, came over to check out the damage himself. He actually brought Max, toddler, with him, which I was almost livid about at first, but he had a reason. He asked Max to try opening the office closet door. The kid couldn't do it. The door was too heavy for him. You probably can guess where this is going. BIL offered to take my PC to the store that originally built it for me, just to see what was fixable. I agreed, but asked for something in writing just so I had some peace of mind. We put together a little agreement that he'd be responsible for it while it was with him. Yeah, it was just a formality and would not hold much merit anywhere, but it helped me feel a bit more in control. On Monday, he dropped it off at the shop and gave them my number so they could keep me updated. He also told me he confronted my sister about how things played out. I sent him my original Reddit post too, he read the comments and apparently showed them to her. She still hasn't unblocked me, and from what I've heard, was not happy about the fact my BIL is actually listening to me. I also shared the post and some comments with my parents and brother since no one really believed me before. My parents still don't fully get it, but they've at least stopped pushing back. My brother is more understanding now, though for some reason he mostly wanted to talk about how many people saw the post. I don't think either of those three still care, really, and I'm fine if they see this. Do better. Anyway, I went to see the PC today, Wednesday here. The shop said it's mostly salvageable. It needs a very careful internal clean and a few fans replaced, and some wiring fixed, but overall the main parts survived somehow. BL told me he'll cover the cost of the repair, no hesitation. When I brought up what my sister said about not being able to pay even $200, he said she's lying. He also said he's not sure Max actually did all the damage. He thinks the door was left open on purpose, or that my sister might have even done some of it herself. Based on the height of the tower and where the crackers ended up, it didn't quite add up to a toddler acting alone. Apparently, she's been telling him I have a gambling addiction. I did get a bit hooked on Genshin like 4 years ago I guess, and that maybe this whole thing will wake me up, which is new. She used to be supportive or at least indifferent. No idea where that switch came from, so yeah. That's where we're at. My PC is being cleaned up and fixed, and BAL is covering the cost. Sister still has me blocked and won't talk to me. Still tempted to start something with her TBH, especially if she actually did all of this on purpose. Still not ruling out small claims court depending on how things go. Thanks again to everyone who responded to the original post. Seeing how many people understood what happened really helped me hold the line with my family when I felt like I was losing my mind. One thing I've been turning over in my head lately is what if my sister did do something to my setup on purpose? I don't want to believe that, it feels like a stretch, but the more I think about it, the less so, I guess. But then I remember how she acted when I asked her to keep Max out of the office. The eye roll and the "he's just curious" comments, like she didn't take any of it seriously. And now hearing from my BL that she's been saying I have a crippling gambling gaming whatever addiction and needed to grow up. It's just weird. She used to be cool about it. Never super into games herself, but she got that it was important to me. If something changed, I don't know when or why. And if this was some weird way to make a point or teach me a lesson, that's messed up. You're not our mom. How about talking first instead of this? I don't want to jump to conclusions, but the more I think about it, the less it makes sense that Max could have done all of that alone. It's sick if she blamed her own son for it, so yeah. Not accusing anyone outright, but that thought is there now, and if you're my sister reading this, which I'm guessing you are, because I bet you'd love to look at the comments that are on your side a lot. Smiley face, I don't know why you blocked me. I don't know what shifted in your head about all this. But if you actually had anything to do with damaging my setup, whether it was on purpose or just through complete carelessness. Fuck. You. You know I worked hard for that. You know what that rig meant to me, and you know I would never do something like this to your stuff. And if Max really did all of it on his own, I hope you're paying closer attention now. Not for my sake, but for his. Read the comments on my first post again, from other parents and people with younger siblings who clearly know better than you. That's all. Thanks for reading, those who did. Stories number 24. Am I overreacting? My boyfriend's girl best friend is way too flirty and I don't know how to deal with it. Hey Reddit, I, 21F, have been dating my boyfriend, 24M, for about 8 months now, and overall things have been really great. He's kind, supportive, and we have a good time together. But, there's one issue that's been bothering me more and more. His girl best friend. Let's call her Emily. They've been friends for years, long before I came into the picture, and I've tried to be cool about their friendship. I really did. I know it's possible for guys and girls to be friends, and I don't want to be that insecure girlfriend who tells him who he can or can't hang out with. But Emily flirts with him. Like, a lot. She'll make comments about how hot he looks when we're all hanging out. She constantly finds reasons to touch him, like fixing his hair, poking him playfully, leaning on him when she laughs. One time at a party, she sat on his lap like it was the most normal thing in the world. I was literally right there. I've brought it up to him gently, just saying I feel kind of uncomfortable with some of the stuff she does, and he brushed it off as her just being like that with everyone. But I've seen her around other guys. It's not the same. What really messed with my head was when she told him, jokingly, that she would have dated him if they ever got the timing right. And he just laughed it off. I didn't know whether to cry or scream. I don't want to be controlling, and I don't want to give him an ultimatum. But I also don't want to keep pretending I'm okay with this dynamic when I'm really not. So, am I overreacting? Is this worth having a serious convo about again? Has anyone been in a similar situation? I just feel stuck between wanting to trust him and not wanting to ignore my gut. Any advice would seriously help. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, Nor, in fact you're underreacting. Why are you with a guy that allows this to happen? He clearly likes the attention and won't take your concerns seriously. That's obviously flirting. I have been in a similar situation. And he ended up dating her after I broke up with him. There was clearly something between them. JS. Imagine if you did that with one of your male friends. How would he react? My guess is he'd probably be pissed, which should tell you something. He knows it's wrong but doesn't care. Reply, it's all so confusing, he's been such a wonderful guy besides this. OOP in her own comment, so I've read through the comments and I'm going to have a final conversation with my soon-to-be ex and hopefully it'll be a peaceful one. I'll update you all after it. Update, am I overreacting? My boyfriend's girl best friend is way too flirty and I don't know how to deal with it. Hey everyone, just wanted to post a quick update since you guys were kind enough to share advice and validate how I was feeling. I ended up having another conversation with my, now ex-boyfriend a couple of weeks ago. I explained again, calmly and clearly, how uncomfortable Emily's behavior made me feel. I even gave specific examples like her sitting on his lap, the way she always had her hands on him, the "we could have dated" comment, etc. I told him I wasn't trying to be controlling, but that it was starting to feel disrespectful to our relationship, and I needed him to understand where I was coming from. He still brushed it off. Said again that, that's just how she is, and that I was reading too much into it. No ownership. No acknowledgement. No willingness to set any kind of boundary. That's when it clicked for me. I realized I was trying way too hard to explain basic respect in a relationship. I don't think he's a bad guy, but I do think he was more afraid of upsetting Emily than he was of losing me. And that was enough of an answer. So, I broke up with him. It wasn't dramatic. Just sad. I told him I deserved to be with someone who takes my feelings seriously, and who wouldn't make me feel like a third wheel in my own relationship. Since then, I've felt a weird mix of relief and grief. But mostly, peace. I trusted my gut. I chose myself. And I know I made the right decision. Thank you to everyone who helped me feel less crazy in that original post. Seriously. It meant more than I can say. Stories number 25. Aita for telling my mom I won't ever forgive her if she breaks her promise and takes my half-sister on a 13th birthday weekend trip if she doesn't do my delayed 16th birth trip first. 17F, am my mom's oldest kid and there's been a lot of upheaval since she and my dad broke up when I was 1. She started dating her husband when I was 3 and she got pregnant fast, then they broke up. One of my half-sisters was born while they were broken up, they had a brief period of getting back together and conceived one of my half-brothers before breaking up again. I was 8 by the time they got back together for real and I was 11 when they got married. After they got married things settled and my mom started doing this 1:1 things with each of my half-siblings but she had excuses for not doing them with me. So for big birthdays which is like 5, 10, 13, 16 and 18 she has talked about these 1:1 weekend trips to celebrate. She'll do 1:1 spa trips with my half-sisters, she'll take the boys to an indoor sports place for the day. Sometimes she'll take them for an overnight stay in a hotel that has a huge pool and water slide. Those aren't for any special reason. My mom mostly takes me to run errands for 1:1 with me. It's never fun and my mom gets frustrated when I don't know everything she wants. But my mom gets different stuff every week. When I was 15 I told my mom I felt like she favored my half-siblings and I asked if she cared more about having a good relationship with them because she loved their dad and hated mine. She told me it wasn't true and asked where I got the idea from. I told her she made a big deal out of birthdays and making them a priority and 1:1 time but she doesn't do the same for me. I told her the birthday thing started before I turned 13 but we didn't go away for a weekend. I told her she never takes me to the hotel overnight so we can swim and use the water slide together. My mom told me we'd do the trip for my 16th birthday and she promised she would stop making me feel less important. But then she was really sick on my actual 16th birthday and we didn't get to go and then her husband's mom died and they had to spend a lot of money on the funeral so she told me we'd have to delay it but she promised me she would make sure my delayed 16th birthday trip was the next trip to happen and she would not do one with my half-siblings until then. And she had stuck to it but my half-sister is turning 13 soon and mom started talking to her about where they should go. I brought it up to mom and she looked startled. She said making up my 16th birthday was taking longer than planned but it would happen and maybe we could do an extra special one for my 18th instead. I asked her if that would be 1:1 and she said if she goes bigger it would need to include everyone. I told her I didn't want that. I said I want the 2 trips the others would go in my shoes and I told her if she takes my half-sister before making it up to me then I will never forgive her. I told her I will never believe that she doesn't prefer them. She said I was being unreasonable and compromises need to happen. I asked why she asked me to compromise and not them. I asked why she even kept me if I'm such a burden. She got mad and told me she never said or implied anything like that. She said I was looking to see the worst in her. And then she told me she felt like I should hold it against her and my half-siblings less and it would be reasonable to think I wouldn't want to punish them for her not being able to make it up to me yet. I told her I didn't care if they were disappointed at having to wait. That I was still waiting for one damn thing and hoping she wouldn't break another promise. I told her I was dumb to ever believe her because she's a liar and she clearly prefers them. She started yelling but I walked away from her and we haven't talked since. Stories number 26. Looking for my dog Rufus, a piece of my heart I left behind. In early 2016, I adopted a beautiful lab indie mix and named him Rufus. He wasn't just a pet, he was family. But later that year, due to circumstances I still struggle to forgive myself for, I had to give him up. We gave Rufus to a school college in Borivali, Mumbai, where a kind and loving family adopted him. The family had a mother and daughter, I believe the father lived abroad. We used to visit him for a few months afterward. Each visit was comforting but also a painful reminder that I had let down someone who loved me unconditionally. Eventually, we stopped going. It hurt too much. I moved countries, changed phones, changed numbers, but Rufus never left my thoughts. Recently, I found an old number that might have belonged to the family, it's now switched off. I'm in Mumbai for just a week, and I know it's a long shot, but if anyone, Kristen, or anyone who knew this family or remembers Rufus, sees this, please reach out. I don't even know if he's still here or if he's crossed the Rainbow Bridge. But if there's even the smallest chance I could see him again, hold him, or just know how his life turned out, it would mean the world. Please don't hate me, I already carry a lot of guilt. I know Reddit can be tough, but I'm just a human trying to reconnect with someone I loved. If you can help, or know someone who can, please do. Dog tax. OOP adds edits in the comments. Edit 1. I'm unable to edit the post, but the family used to live near St. Francis School College in Borivali West. Not sure if this will help, but I'm trying everything I can. Edit 2. Another detail I missed in the post. The family after some time, probably a year or so, reached out to us asking if there's someone else I know who would be willing to adopt Rufus, as the daughter was entering her 10th-12th grade and wanted to focus on studies, or they were planning to join the father abroad. I don't exactly remember. My heart sank as we didn't know anyone who would want to adopt him. I was too afraid to follow up on what eventually happened. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. If you love him, don't go to meet him. He will be sad for days after you leave. That is not ideal for our furry friends. Reply. I've definitely thought about this and in no way I mean to cause him any more trouble than I've already caused. Will hold my peace as long as I know he's healthy, loved and happy. No harm in getting in touch with the family and know for a fact he's having a good life. Commenter 2. Hope you're able to get latest happy and healthy pics and updates about Rufus. The moment he recognizes you, if you happen to be in the proximity, he'll build up hopes of getting back with you for good, and if that's not the case, it'll destroy him mentally once again. Rufus probably recovered from pain he felt about what he must have done for you to part ways, and now if he sees you again and leave, it'll make him contemplate once again. Reply. I agree. My only hope is to know that he has a good life and if there's anything I can do for him. Update. I can hardly believe I'm writing this. I found Rufus. I managed to find the daughter through LinkedIn, and to my overwhelming relief and joy, Rufus is still with the same loving family who adopted him 8 years ago. After years of holding on to guilt, questions, and what-ifs, I finally broke down, buckets of tears, but this time, from happiness. He's safe. He's healthy. He's happy. And above all, he's deeply loved. They kindly shared some photos of him, and my heart just melted. He's still the same goofy soul, with his signature Dobby ears and those forever hungry, soulful eyes. Seeing him now, a part of me feels healed. I'll always carry the memory of letting him go, but today I know, without a doubt, he found the home he truly deserved. A better one than I could have ever given him at the time. To the wonderful family who gave him everything, thank you. From the bottom of my heart. I am at peace. I am grateful. I am healed. More dog tax. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Man, this post almost made me tear up. My doggo, who was also a lab mix, looked almost identical and had the same goofy expressions. I'm so glad he's doing well and that you got to meet him, praying that bossman Rufus has a long and happy life. Reply. I haven't met him yet, still contemplating if I should. Don't want to hurt him by resurfacing his wounds. It was probably very stressful for him back in 2016. Commenter 2. It's been 8 long years, I think you should be able to meet him. He knows he has a loving family now, so I don't think he will feel much dejected. There are fosters who do meet their foster babies after having them adopted into their forever families. Considering the little time you spent with him, this could be similar for you. Think of it like you fostered this puppy for a while before getting him his forever family. Reply. Thank you. I met him today. He's very happy and loved. I think he vaguely remembers me, couldn't really tell since he was fully focused and content with the treats and toys I got him. Hee. He growls like a puppy. We played some tug of war and he jumped around a lot. I hugged him, showered lots of kisses, it was magical. He is such a young soul, wagged his tail every time I called him Roofy boy, can't believe he is a senior dog now. May he live the rest of his life happily with minimal pain. My pretty angel blue heart. Final comment from OOP. Thank you, I really had lost all hopes of ever knowing his whereabouts. I didn't know if he's still alive, I didn't know if he ended up on streets. I had thought ABT every possible situation and TBH was completely heartbroken. I am incredibly happy and grateful to the family who made his life so much better. Stories number 27. Aita for telling a property manager her tenant's death is on her hands. I am an EMT who works for a private ambulance company that is contracted to provide 911 services in a busy city. Last week my unit was sent to an unknown medical run with the only information given was that a person was on the phone with family stating they didn't feel good before there was a thud and the phone went silent. After calling back several times with no answer, the family called 911. The address given was less than a mile away in an apartment complex, so our on-scene time was under 5 minutes, with the fire department being 30 seconds behind us. We get to the door, knock and call out but get no response. We try the door, it's locked along with all the windows. The FD captain has dispatched send the family's number over to his cell phone to inquire if there's a hidden key somewhere. The family tells us that the main office should have a spare. One of the firefighters goes over to ask for it. When the firefighter returns he tells us that the manager wants to talk to whoever is in charge. She explains that she can't give us the key without the tenant's permission. The captain tells her the tenant is having a medical emergency and can't give that permission. After several minutes of back and forth the captain tells her either give us the key or we're going to break down the door. The manager says she wants to help us but she doesn't want to be held liable if she lets us in and there's no emergency. Frustrated FD captain tells his crew to get the tools ready. Due to safety reasons and protocol the FD is unable to perform forcible entry without the sheriffs present to clear the scene without exigent circumstances. I.E. hearing someone asking for help, seeing a person down from a window. Because it was super busy day it took the sheriffs 15-ish or so minutes to show up. The second sheriffs arrive FD went to work on the door and had it open in 10 seconds. As soon as we go in we find the patient on the floor unresponsive agonally in an abnormal heart rhythm which soon turns into no rhythm. FD and my paramedic partner start CPR while I run to the ambulance to get more equipment. As I exit the door the manager asks if everything is okay. I tell her no everything is not okay. I return with the equipment to the apartment plug myself in where I'm needed and we proceed to work up the patient for over an hour before calling it. As we pack up our gear and used equipment I go outside to get a sheet to cover the deceased. The sheriff asks if we're going to be transporting the patient to the hospital to which I reply no he's gone. We spent 20 minutes arguing with the manager to give us the damn spare key but she didn't so now this guy's dead because of it. Unknown to me the manager was standing around the corner just of sight and heard my comment. She let out a very loud gasp and started to cry before walking down the hallway to her office that I was told to apologize or be written up by a supervisor but I stand by my statement and refused. Aita, stories number 28. Aita for not inviting my mom's new husband to my graduation dinner. I, 23F, just finished my master's degree in social work a few weeks ago. It was a really big deal for me, first in my family to get a graduate degree, and I worked full-time during school just to make it happen. So, my close friends and I planned a small dinner the weekend after graduation to celebrate. I invited my dad, my two younger brothers, my best friend, and a couple of classmates I'm close with. I also invited my mom, but not her husband, Doug. For context, my mom remarried about 6 months ago. She and Doug started dating pretty fast after her divorce from my dad, like within 2 months, which was already kind of jarring. But I've been trying to be polite and open. That said, Doug and I don't exactly click. He's very opinionated, loud in conversations, and kind of dismissive of anything he doesn't agree with. At Thanksgiving, he made a comment about my degree being woke nonsense and said something like, hopefully you'll find a real job someday. My mom laughed awkwardly, didn't say anything, and I just kind of swallowed it for the sake of the holiday. But that really stuck with me. So, when I was putting together this dinner, I made a choice to invite my mom but not extend the invite to Doug. I didn't say, he's not allowed, or anything, I just worded the message so it was clear it was for her, not her, and a +1. I figured if she really needed to bring him, we'd cross that bridge. Well, she declined the invite and told me later she felt excluded and like I was punishing her for being happy. I explained my reasons, how this was a small, personal dinner, and I didn't feel comfortable having Doug there. I even offered to do a separate lunch or something with her and Doug another time. She wasn't interested. Now she's not talking to me, and my aunt, her sister, says I should've just sucked it up because he's part of her life now and I'm being disrespectful. I'm honestly torn. I didn't want to make this dinner about anything other than celebrating my graduation. But maybe I did make it weird. Was I being petty or was I just setting a boundary? Stories number 29. Aita for being unsupportive of my mom's decision to give birth. 14F, always wanted a sibling. But my parents had issues having a second child. My mom had 2 miscarriages, the first time I was too young to understand what's really happening but second time I was 9 years old and I saw how much my parents suffered and I felt horrible for losing my sister. My mom is now pregnant again, but unfortunately they have been told there was a risk of baby having Down syndrome and about a week ago my parents told me it was confirmed through a diagnostic test my sibling has Down syndrome. They told me they are considering terminating the pregnancy and I should be ready for this possibility. I felt horrible about losing a sibling again but I have been searching non-stop since then about caring for a person with Down syndrome and learned how hard it actually is and how it comes with a lot of other health problems and how there's a very high possibility of them never being independent. I then started wishing they would decide to abort it but today they sat me down again and told me they decided to give birth. I felt so disappointed. I didn't say anything but okay. My parents could read through me and asked me if I was unhappy about their decision. I thought I had to tell them the truth because if I don't say it now it might be too late forever. So I told them about all the research I was doing and I wished she had decided to terminate. We had a long talk and at some point I said I know I always told them I would love to have a sibling but I don't think I will ever be able to bond with this one. After hearing that my mom started crying. My dad started comforting her and told me to give them a little space. He then came up to my room and told me I hurt them, especially my mom, deeply with all the things I have said, and I should have supported their decision. I asked him if that was actually their decision or my mom's decision because it feels like the latter. He told me his decision is whatever my mom's decision is because she is the one that is pregnant and I should have supported her decision and I owe her a huge apology for not doing so. I think I had every right to share how I actually feel, especially after they asked me in the first place, but Aita. Stories number 30. I, 29F, don't know where to go from here after a traumatic experience with my partner, 31M. Last week, my partner and I attended a wedding of some of his friends. We had booked a hotel nearby well in advance since we planned to drink and didn't bring our 1.5-year-old son with us. That night, we both drank, but I tend to avoid beer and wine, so I wasn't drinking as fast as my partner. He drank quite a bit, which didn't bother me. I've never seen him truly drunk before, only tipsy. The day itself was beautiful and emotional. We both felt honored to witness such a close and intimate ceremony. We even started wondering if maybe we would want to get married ourselves someday, even though we've always said we wouldn't. Later that night, he made several hints about wanting to have sex in the hotel room. I didn't respond much because I wasn't sure if I was in the mood. My libido hasn't been great due to ongoing burnout. At one point, he started touching me, and when I said I didn't want sex, he continued anyway. I figured maybe he'd just finish quickly, and we could sleep, but it didn't feel right. When I tried to turn away, he suddenly tried to penetrate me anally without warning. It was incredibly painful, and I screamed. He apologized, but then continued having vaginal sex with me. He told me that if I didn't cooperate, he'd do it anally again. When he tried again, I started crying and pushed him off me. He went to shower, and I thought it was finally over and that I could sleep. But after his shower, while I was pretending to sleep, he got on top of me again and finished. He then fell asleep next to me. I just lay there, alone, without a blanket, confused and hurting. I even thought about going home that night, but I'd also been drinking and the drive would have been 1.5 hours. The next day he apologized. He said he didn't remember everything clearly. I don't know what to do now. I've talked to my psychologist about it. I was already in EMDR therapy for other trauma, and she suggested having a joint session with both of us. I'm thankful I was able to tell her, because I don't feel like I can talk about this with my family. I'm afraid they'll see him as a monster, and I'm still trying to make sense of what happened myself. I want us to be a family. We have a son together. I keep thinking maybe it was just the alcohol. But something similar has happened before, even without alcohol. I brushed it off then, telling myself everyone gives in sometimes. What makes it even more confusing is that this past week, he's been very sweet, doing everything for me, giving me massages, complimenting me. It's like he's trying to show love and care, and it's so emotionally conflicting. Where do I go from here? Stories number 31. Aita for skipping my sister's destination wedding because I can't justify the cost. My sister is planning a destination wedding at a very high-end resort, and while I care about her deeply and want to be there for her big day, the truth is, I just can't afford it. Between flights, hotel, and everything else involved, the cost is way outside my budget. When I told her I wouldn't be able to swing it, she said I should find a way, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime moment and family should make sacrifices. And while I get that it's an important day for her, I don't think it's fair to expect everyone to go into financial stress just to attend. To complicate things, I did come into a bit of extra money recently, nothing life-changing, but enough that I could technically use it to go. But my priority has been putting that towards something more long-term, like paying off debt or building an emergency fund. I'm trying to make better financial choices, and flying out for a luxury wedding I can't really afford doesn't fit into that plan. Now my sister thinks I'm being selfish and letting her down, but I honestly feel like she's being unreasonable. I've tried to be supportive in other ways, but she's clearly upset I won't be there in person. So, Aita for not attending her wedding even though I technically could if I chose to use that extra money. I feel torn between guilt and the need to protect my financial well-being, and I'm not sure if I'm being unfair. Stories number 32. Aita, I keep dodging my friend because she says my dad's death was preventable. For some background, we didn't know that my father was sick. He had been having some gas issues and his doctor put him on new medication, so my family just assumed that was why he was having stomach aches. One day out of the blue my dad was having a really bad stomach ache, so we rushed him to urgent care. We thought that they would just give him gas medicine and that he would come home with us. He never came out of the hospital. The doctors tried giving him surgery but it was unsuccessful. We found out he had cancer all over his body and he was hooked up to about 12 to 14 machines trying to keep him alive. My mother stayed with him and we decided to take him off the machines because the doctor said he was too far gone to save anymore. That he was in pain being alive. After he passed away I transferred colleges and started my first semester. I met a girl who I thought was my friend, and when she asked about my family it came out that my dad passed away. She immediately asks what happened, and the first thing that comes out of her mouth after I tell her what happened is, "Wow, you don't even seem sad." And, if I ever lost my dad I don't know what I'd do. She also starts asking me about the details of my dad's death, specifically about the part of us having to let him go, and says this, "Don't you think you could have saved him? It feels like you just gave up on him. And, he probably could have woken up if you gave him time." Like what? I even told her that the doctor said that all his organs shut down, and she still insisted my family was heartless to take him off the machines and we could have saved him. If there was any way to bring back my father I'd do it in a heartbeat. I miss him and think about him every day. The fact she accused me of first not caring and then saying that he could have been saved was absolutely baffling. Here's where I might be the asshole. I was completely appalled and I haven't spoken to her since. She keeps asking me to go out to parties with her and I keep dodging her. I feel like a complete asshole avoiding her and I think she's getting upset I keep dodging her. So Reddit, Aita. Also, I forgot to mention that she might have been saying this because of a religious thing. She just came here this semester from another country, and I forgot to mention in my previous post she said that taking him off the machines and ventilator was playing God. I personally don't believe this because he was able to breathe for about an hour before taking his last breath and passing without any help. Stories number 33. I think I broke my super Christian MAGA coworker by purposely pulling an Uno reverse out of thin air. If there was a poster child position for Christian bigotry and hypocrisy, she would be it. I moved from the West Coast to the Midwest 3 years ago. The closed-mindedness of these people is astounding, and they use religion and Christian values to justify their behavior and racist mentality. I tend to poke her buttons and point out the flaws in her so-called logic as often as possible to see if something sticks. If I gotta hear about Jesus and Trump in the workplace, she can hear me grumble too. She fully believes Jesus was white and blonde-haired. I tried that, "So you think a Middle Eastern person, in the Middle East, was white?" argument. Didn't work. Apparently white people have been around for centuries and they could have been from Europe. I pointed that flaw out and apparently, people can travel to other countries and settle. She puts her children in homeschool because she doesn't trust the government. I say homeschool lightly because she takes them to a group house of like-minded people so all the kids can learn the teachings of Jesus and not be influenced by corruption and propaganda brought forth by the Biden administration. I poked that bear and said, "So Sunday school?" She said no, homeschooled. Again, so a place where yours and other kids go, to collectively receive an education of your choosing. So a school. She said no, homeschooled with other kids, learning about what her and the parents think is best for their children. So. A cult. Yesterday, I told her not to rely on my support, as I was leaving on vacation for the week this weekend. She immediately rebutted, "Going back to the blue states to be with the other Democrats like yourself?" I said no, and I'm not a Democrat. She said if I voted for Harris then that means that I'm a Democrat. I said, no. That means I'm an adult making an educated decision, instead of doing what your cult says to do. She grumbled and tried changing the subject. Are you going to go to the principal, 401k luncheon? No, I'd rather not look at how bad my portfolio is doing, since I already lost thousands due to Trump last week. In fact, third most OG worker, who's getting ready to retire but not no more, just lost $60,000 last week alone. She shrugged and went, "You gotta lose money to make money." That was the last straw for me. I like that OG and I sorta just let loose. That's not how the saying goes. It's spend money to make money. Only you mega cultists say that 'cause you're so stupid, you can't even get a 5-word sentence correctly and it's what your orange Jesus tells you to say. She got defensive and said, "Well, Trump won and he's doing great at fixing the country and all these tariffs are a good thing and I just need to wait and see because Trump is never wrong and he's the master at business and will save this country." She paid attention during the campaigns, was aware of the stats and even believed they were eating the dogs and cats shtick. I decided to use her smug knowledge against her. I looked her dead in the eye and I said, "According to Trump, he won 40% of the Black American vote." She said, "That's right, it's not. Did you ever stop to wonder why they voted for Trump instead of Kamala, who was an ethnic background?" She shrugged and said maybe they just knew he was the more qualified candidate. Or maybe they purposely put the most unqualified person in the White House, to watch the country burn and bring it all down. The country that continues to racially profile them and arrest them for no reason. Maybe they're tired of all that liberal protesting and decided to let him take apart the country, so there's no more country left. Think about it. Protests nationwide, Teslas burning down, millions and billions lost. It's never been this bad and the liberals have never been this organized before. It was probably all orchestrated. And it clicked, I saw the wheels turning and I've been sitting back watching her downward spiral into this fake conspiracy theory I just made up on the fly. When I last left her, she was madly scrolling through Newsmax and Fox News, trying to disprove my claim, but that propaganda machine is helping prove my point. Stories number 34. Invited to destination wedding, but not the ceremony or reception. Looking for an outside perspective on the most recent event my husband and I went to. The wedding was for my husband's friend, let's call him B. Husband and B have known each other and been friends for 10 plus years, and we've subsequently known his now wife for about 5. Husband and I moved across the country, but he still regularly keeps up with B and does yearly trips meetups. B invited us to his destination wedding in Hawaii. We received the invitation, RSVP'd on time and for all the events noted on the website. B even invited husband to fly out 6 days early to Hawaii for the bachelor party, where he was one of 4 guys that joined. During the bachelor party, my husband learned that we were invited to all the wedding weekend events, but the ceremony and reception. The ceremony and reception were smaller, but they included the majority of guests that traveled in, 90% minus 45 out of 55. The groom explained that he didn't expect all of his extended family to make the trip, and the venue had capacity limits so they sadly could not include everyone. The groom said he thought we were aware because of the personalized agenda we had access to via the registration website. Looking back, the ceremony and reception were not noted on the website, but I don't think we thought much about this because it was so far in advance when we registered, and there was questions answered about the ceremony reception on the FAQ, and also in the emails and packing lists they send out to all guests in advance. The groom also never mentioned anything clarified this invite until we arrived. I completely understand there are budget capacity restrictions that can limit everyone attending all parts of the wedding. But I do feel really awkward and embarrassed about not knowing this in advance. Did we misread the invite or expectations of the groom bride, and also just upset? It was a bummer and long trip for us to travel so far and miss a beautiful part of the trip. Has this happened to anyone else? Stories number 35. I'm 35F, moving out with the kids while my husband, 36M, mom, 68F, has cancer and trying to move in with us. I'm 35F, seriously considering moving out with the kids because my husband, 36M, wants MIL, 68F, to move in while she deals with cancer. I don't necessarily have anything negative with my husband himself, other than his mom. For many reasons, I cannot live with her in the same roof. I have suggested she gets her cancer treatment for free in her home country, or get an apartment near us, but MIL wants to live with her son when she's sick. I have told him either he can move out and live with his mom or I can move out with the kids. The latter makes the most sense because we have a 4-bedroom house, which would be excessive for just him and his mom. However, I cannot force him or his mom, so now I'm looking at 2-bedroom apartments either for me or him. I have no plans to divorce him. He has been a good father and husband, but I am worried how this would affect our marriage long term. We do not know what stage she is in right now. How many of you have separated for logistic reasons and what was the outcome? Edit. MIL and I, despite from same country, have very different views and culture. I cannot stand living with her because she has shown lack of respect for me, my boundaries, abusive to my toddler, and bad influence on my husband. I'll provide just one example for each of the above, but I have hundreds of examples. She moved in the first time without my permission and under false pretenses and essentially took over my daughter's room. Literally sold her house and drop-shipped a moving box and moved in before we could. She yells all the time, sometimes she just talks loud but sometimes she's yelling at me. Ick. She constantly tells me to cook and clean more, BC my husband does his fair share. But now my oldest is a toddler, I don't want to set an example of me taking such disrespect. She locked my toddler, then 2 years old, who already has high anxiety, outside our old apartment because he didn't obey her, which is why kids will not be with her unsupervised either. She constantly talks at you, like you can't get a word in. My husband deals with it by, in one ear and out the other, basically not listen. But being around her reverts him to that habit and he ends up not listening to me either. For the record, he does try to change his mom but old habits die hard, so he was constantly trying to explain both our views to each other. And things she did would be acceptable in China 30 years ago. But I have no intentions of accepting mistreatment due to culture. Stories number 36. My sister invited BF and I to dinner at their house to meet her new BF, my BF cancelled last minute. For context, my 24F, BF, 25M, and I live about an hour and a half away from my sister, 20F, and her BF. We are due with our first baby in August, so we decided it'd be a good idea to rent or buy a house close to my family and network of women in their town. Today we went to their town an hour and a half away for some house and apartment tours to see what we like. Yesterday, my sister and her BF invited us over and offered to cook us dinner, to meet her new BF. I asked my BF last night if we could go, because we'd be taking his car, mine has some problems. He agreed. We went through all the tours we had planned plus some more unplanned ones and found the one we really love around 12 p.m., noon. My sister and her BF said 6:45 to 7 p.m. would work best because that's when they'd be getting home from work and are free for the dinner. I let my BF know this in the morning as we were driving to the first tour around 9 a.m. We killed some time after the tours. We visited my mom, we visited my grandmother, picked my little sister up from school, he went on a run, etc. There were still about 3 hours left to kill before they'd be ready for us. After about 2 more hours, with 1 hour left to go, he got us in the car and explained he didn't want to wait any longer or kill time any longer. When I explained that they had already picked up groceries, cleaned the house, and were getting ready for us to come, they were really excited about this. He said he wasn't going because he just didn't feel like it, and genuinely didn't care to meet the new BF. We went to his grandmother's to pick up our dogs 40 minutes away, and he then explained if I wanted to go so bad that my sister could come pick me up and take me all the way home herself. Again, we live over an hour away. I told him obviously that wouldn't be possible. Before that, as we left my mother's, I texted my sister and explained that we weren't going to be able to make it and she was understandably upset, explaining all the hard work they put in that I mentioned above. It made it worse that I was canceling an hour before getting there. I felt awful, and I apologized over and over but she hasn't responded to me and is very upset with me. As someone very close to her, this whole situation hurt me, and since it was important to her, it was important to me as well. My BF said he really just didn't care and wanted to go home, no changing his mind. I told him he put me in a really tough spot with this and asked for an apology, as now everyone in the situation got hurt. He doesn't think he has done anything to apologize for and refuses to acknowledge his part in this, saying, "You didn't even care before your sister got upset." I explained if I had done something that put him in a tough spot, and a negative situation came from it, I'd apologize, as I care about his feelings and want him to have good experiences. He still does not agree. He still will not apologize or take accountability on his part for the negativity this all caused. So maybe it's not as big a deal as I'm making it out to be, but I really think all I asked for was an apology, and he can't even give me that. I feel awful about this with my sister but she still won't talk to me. IDEC, what to do there, AIO? Edit, thank you for the constructive advice. I want to make it clear, leaving him over this is very drastic to me, and I will not be doing that. I see both sides here, and I was really having a hard time seeing his side. For a little more info, he just got a new truck that it how to drive, so I was doing none of the driving, and we were doing a lot of driving, as we did also have to go almost an hour out of the way this morning to drop the dogs off. Super early morning. I did thank him in the middle of our heated conversation for everything he did do today, so I promise I wasn't being ungrateful. However, it was actually his idea to visit my other family members, as he wanted to speak to my parents about mortgages. My mother is a MLO. Also, he has done this before technically, canceling last minute, but usually he has good and valid reasons other than, "I just don't want to." I'm also aware that him not wanting to is totally valid, and it wasn't even technically where I got upset, it was the lack of understanding that it put me in a position where I now have someone I love very much upset with me. But he is very very good to me on a daily basis, and he is usually very reliable and understanding. That's pretty much why I'm asking AIO. Stories number 37. AIO for not wanting my wife's friend seeing our baby anymore. My wife, 29F, and I, 30M, recently had a baby boy. My wife's friend, we'll call her Shelly, has been nothing but disrespectful to me and my role as a father during the entire pregnancy. Shelly has a 3-year-old and a lot of baby daddy drama. Since my wife has been pregnant, Shelly has told me every time I see her that I'm just a baby daddy, and implied that my role in my son's life would not be significant. The day my wife went into labor, Shelly started a group chat with my wife, herself, and their mutual friend. When their mutual friend asked how I was handling the pressure of my wife being in labor, Shelly replied with, "Who cares, he's not the one having a baby, he doesn't matter." Then our baby was born. Shelly came to visit at the hospital the next day. When she came into the room, she took my son right out of my arms and said, "Give me my baby." She then continued to make the, "I'm just a baby daddy" remarks. After she left, I told my wife if Shelly can't respect me as a father, then I don't want her around my son. My wife understands where I'm coming from but sympathizes with Shelly because Shelly doesn't have a supportive partner to help raise her child like my wife has with me and sees it as a jealousy thing. My wife thinks not allowing Shelly to see our son is going too far. Am I overreacting? Stories number 38. Am I overreacting for breaking up with my girlfriend because she didn't like the ring I got her? So just to be clear, this wasn't an engagement ring. We've been together a little over a year and she'd been hinting a lot lately about wanting a ring, not in a proposal way necessarily, just clearly expecting something special soon. I wasn't ready to propose yet, but I still wanted to do something meaningful. I picked out a $600 ring that I thought was really nice just to be sure. I FaceTimed one of her close friends and she said it was perfect, totally her style. When I gave it to my girlfriend, her reaction was pretty disappointing. She looked at it and said, "Oh, this isn't really what I had in mind," and kind of commented that it didn't look that expensive. It honestly hurt. I took a few days to think it through and ended up breaking up with her. It felt like such a shallow response to something I put real thought and care into. But now she's been reaching out saying she made a mistake and asking for another chance, and honestly I'm starting to second guess myself. Was I being too sensitive? Or is this the kind of reaction that shows deeper values misaligned? Stories number 39. Male driver being very creepy with my girlfriend's order. My girlfriend, 24F, and me, 25M, we're just relaxing at home and got hungry, so we ordered some food on separate orders. My order came first and the driver followed the app instructions and left at door, took the picture and left. But when my girlfriend's order came, the driver did not follow instructions. For context, my girlfriend and I have very gender-specific names, think John and Elizabeth, so the drivers can clearly tell I'm a man and she's a girl. Her driver arrived and we thought dropped the food off because he submitted the picture of it at our door. I told my girlfriend I'll go grab it for her, really happy I did. When I get downstairs I can see through the glass on the side of the door that the driver is still standing there holding her order. I open the door and he looks up from his phone at me and I swear to God looks shocked and startled. It's a man picking up the food. I ask the driver if that's the order for my girlfriend's name, and he says in kinda bad English that no, this order is for, and he repeats the same name back to me. I just stare at home for a second and say, yeah, that's my girlfriend, it's her order. He says, oh okay, and hands me the food. And before I can close the door he like cranes his neck to see behind me into the apartment building. I just say thanks and close the door. Jesus Christ, is this what it's like for every woman who orders on this app? Stories number 40. I was a Zilla substitute and I don't regret it. So I recently saw this sub and I thought it'd be fun to share this. So my oldest brother is 28 and I'm now 21, but this happened when I was 17 and still living at home with my parents. My brother and Sil were getting married, and when going through wedding planner candidates, they landed on apparently the best one in her field. After their initial first meeting with her, it became clear that while she knows what she's doing and will help them have a gorgeous wedding, she didn't have an ounce of kindness, very catty and condescending, especially with my Sil, who is an absolute sweetheart who doesn't like conflict or calling out people. Since my brother couldn't attend most meetings after the initial one, travels a lot with his job, and didn't want my Sil to be alone and possibly let their wedding planner walk all over her, he enlisted me. He just walked into my room and was like, you might be just enough of a bitch to speak her language, and then he told me the story and asked me to be at all meetings that he won't be in. And you know what? I loved every minute of it because no one can act like that with my family. I attended a total of 6 meetings. She was big on time, and the first time I went with my Sil, she commented about our lack of punctuality, parking issue, before even greeting us, so I started timing her on everything. I told her that we want a detailed time frame for everything from wine tasting to cake to flower meetings to lighting meetings to priest meeting, etc. And if we went over her time frame, I made snarky comments on lack of punctuality. She made a comment about a type of cake that not everyone has a palate for, a direct hit at my sales. So when the planner nearly choked on her salad in the food tasting, I commented that not everyone has table manners. She commented on my Sil's weight at the first dress shopping. Next time I commented about her top not fitting her right and that not all clothes are work appropriate. There was a lot more, but I can't write all of them or this post would be a mini novel length. My Sil laughing after having retreated into herself from the planner's comments was worth it, though. By the wedding day, the planner hated me so much that she avoided and dodged me all day and night. No regrets. Stories number 41. Realized I'm touch-starved, at the dentist. I went in for a routine dental checkup and possible cleaning. No big deal, just the usual cleaning, mild existential dread, and accidentally getting a little excited. Everything was fine until my dentist was counting my teeth, and his gloved fingers grazed my lips and tongue for some time. I looked up at him through those weird tinted glasses they give you, and just froze. Not in fear. Not in pain. Just in the sad, quiet realization that I have not been touched in months, and my brain decided this was intimacy. And I'm feeling something. I walked out with clean teeth, an appointment in 6 months, and the crushing awareness that I've hit some kind of single-person low. I even thought about calling him. I think I need a hug. Or a date, or maybe just less imagination. Stories number 42. I found another random woman's photos in my laptop. Yesterday while searching for the photo booth app in my F30 MacBook, after typing photo, 2 files came up. When I opened them it was 2 photos of a woman posing and smiling. I've never met her, I've never seen this person in my life, but somehow there's 2 separate photos of her saved somewhere in my computer. Now this is where things get complicated. I live at home with my parents and the only person who's ever used the MacBook is my dad, 59. My parents are recently separated but still sorta care for each other as we all live under one roof. They do generally get along. My mom overshares her issues with him and she's never mentioned infidelity. Finding this has been eating me alive. Part of me is selfishly keeping it to myself to not rock the boat as they have had a rocky relationship and being around it causes me so much anxiety. I don't know if I should tell my sister or my mom or my dad for clarification. Edit. They are separated but not legally divorced. I was under the impression they were working through their issues. And the photo looks older, not taken recently. The woman looks my dad's age and he hasn't used my computer in a very long time so I know it's not recent. Stories number 43. Should I make my neighbor pay me back for their cat's vet bill? On March 9th I found a 4-month-old kitten in my neighborhood and took it in since my neighbor's dog was trying to eat it. This kitten had a snotty nose and diarrhea so I scheduled a vet appointment as I continued to search online to see if anyone was missing him. The day before his appointment he became so ill he would not eat, drink or move and he had a fever. The vet gave him fluids, examined him, and sent me home with antibiotics and a dewormer. Fast forward to yesterday, a neighbor came to the door looking for their kitten and it was the one I had found. She promised me she would pay the vet bill back, and I returned the kitten to her, which was extremely emotional but I felt was the right thing to do. Today I sent her the vet invoice of $255. And her response was, I will only pay $100 back to you. I am a mom of 3 working a minimum wage job so that vet bill was a lot for me and took away from groceries I could have bought. So help me decide what to do. Should I fight it? Should I let it go? What would you do? Edited because I accidentally typed 4-week-old kitten when I meant to type 4-month-old kitten. Update. My neighbor has agreed to give the kitten back to me since she refuses to pay the vet bill. I am picking him up tonight, wish me luck. Stories number 44. Whipped for considering suing my boyfriend's friends for destroying my purse. Advice needed. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I recently bought an authentic designer purse. I realize the privilege I have to do so, but I work an extremely demanding job that requires I work very long hours and get compensated well to do so. It's something I've wanted my entire life and I've finally reached a point where I can afford to do it. Not super relevant, but I grew up poor so in a way it was cathartic to me to buy something frivolous that I really wanted, which is partially why it means so much to me. I've had this purse less than a month and have only worn it out twice, once to a work event and once to a nice dinner we went on with my boyfriend and his friends this last weekend. We were hanging out at my boyfriend's friend's house after the dinner and I hung my purse on the chair behind me. At this point I trusted everyone in the house and wasn't really concerned about it. We've all been hanging out for years now. We moved to another room right next to the one we were in to play a game. When I came back, my purse was right where I left it. When we left for the night, I grabbed it and thought it felt heavier but didn't look inside of it until I went to unload it when we got home. For some reason, someone thought it would be funny to put uncovered red Jell-O shots into my purse with white interior where they proceeded to leak. The entire inside was stained a splotchy pink shade and to say I was livid is an understatement. We're all between 30 to 60. We have some older folks that are family friends of people in the group that hang out with us sometimes, so everyone is old enough to not do something so stupid. I attempted to clean it to no avail. My boyfriend reached out to the group chat that has about half of his friends in it and asked if anyone knew who had done it. One person admitted they saw someone do it and told us who. It was one of the older members of the group who is known for messing with people's belongings, but never to this degree. For example, when we went swimming last summer he filled the pockets of my shorts up with Chex Mix. It was annoying but didn't really damage anything. Also no one really finds his antics funny. In my opinion it's common sense to refrain from putting red goo, that turns liquidy when warm, into a white bag, but he claims that he was just being funny and didn't think they would leak. I asked him for money to either repair the bag or replace it and he claims he does not have that much money. He says the bag looked cheap so he didn't think it would be a big deal even if the shots had leaked. I know that he has ample assets, multiple sports cars, $1 million home, etc., and can find a way to compensate me for what he had damaged. When I pointed this out, he told me that it was my fault for bringing around an expensive bag and that something could have easily been spilled on it instead. While I would have been upset if that had been the case obviously, I wouldn't have been anywhere near as upset because this had been done intentionally and is now being blamed on me. I can take responsibility and say I shouldn't have left it out of my sight, but I knew no one in the house would steal it or the contents in it and I never would have thought someone would fill it with sticky red goo regardless of how expensive or cheap it was. I told him that he needed to find the money or I would be suing him for the damages, and a couple people in the group think I'm going too far. My boyfriend is thankfully as angry as I am, and I don't want this situation to come at the cost of any of his friendships, but I also want compensated for my property that I worked my butt off for. Wibta, if I take legal action, or should I try some other method to recoup my losses? I personally don't think so because this wasn't an accident, but some people seem to think I'm going too nuclear. Stories number 45. The uglier the better. Me and my husband have been together for 17 years, 4 kids. He was there at each birth, and even if I felt gross and disgusting, he only focused on, "This is the best thing I've ever witnessed." There was a glass in front of my bed and he could see everything. We love each other and try make time for lunch date, when work and kids allow. We don't have family to help. I always fix myself before I leave the house, no big things, but like makeup, hair done, dress nice, regardless of what I'm doing. But when I'm in a desperate state like baggy clothes, hair up, dark circles and cleaning, he points out how good I look. I wonder if men, once they love someone, they only see beauty. Or am I romanticizing it too much? Stories number 46. My extremely tiny and petty legally blonde moment. My 3-year odyssey of spite finally came together yesterday. When I was a fresh college grad in 2022, 21F at the time, I dated an attorney for about 3 months, 27M. He was a talented lawyer, spoke lucidly about what he did for work, and I trusted his opinions about the legal profession. So, after I finished a post-grad internship, I told him my real post-grad aspiration was to get a job at a law firm as a paralegal, and work as one until I was ready to apply for law school. He literally scoffed at me and told me I would be better off as a court clerk. I don't mean to harp on court clerks at all, it is a very difficult job, but it is more administrative in nature, and from the way he said it, it was exceedingly clear he meant the comment to be derogatory. He didn't elaborate on why he said this, but it was implied. I was taken aback and really fucking hurt, but at 21 I hadn't learned to have a spine yet, so I brushed it off. A few weeks later, I was working my first paralegal job. We broke up shortly after for reasons I'm sure you can guess. Anyway, he was right that I'm not going to be a paralegal. I took my LSAT last fall, scored in the 98th percentile, sent out my apps, committed to UC Berkeley Law yesterday, ranked about 90 spots above his law school, but who's counting, and am going to become a lawyer. He is currently blocked on LinkedIn after I was the recipient of some profile creeping from him, but today I'm going to unblock him so he can see. Definitely reminiscent of the scene from Legally Blonde where she gets the prestigious internship. Remember those hours we spent in the hot tub on spring break? Well, this is so much better. Stories number 47. Aita for refusing to introduce my husband to my biological father after finding out my stepdad isn't my real dad. I recently found out that the man I've always believed to be my father is actually not my biological dad. Here's the backstory. Before I was born, my mom was dating my biological father. According to her, she also had someone else, her now husband, my stepfather, who had a crush on her. When she got pregnant, my biological father denied the pregnancy and abandoned her. Her parents were furious and kicked her out of the house. Her crush, my stepfather, stepped in, he gave her a place to stay, supported her, helped her reconcile with her parents, and even raised me as his own after marrying my mom. I grew up with him, never knowing anything different. He's been an amazing father to me. Actually, we have a very close bond. I was his favorite and always felt deeply loved. I didn't have the faintest idea he wasn't my biological father. Fast forward to now, I'm getting married soon. I was out wedding shopping when a man approached me and called me by my name. He told me he was my real father and asked if we could talk. He even suggested doing a DNA test and begged me to forgive him. He asked me to introduce my fiancé to him as my real dad. I was completely shocked. I ran home, confronted my parents and grandparents, and they confirmed everything he said. My world crumbled a little that day. Early this morning, my biological father showed up at my grandparents' house. I was there with my mom and siblings. Without thinking twice, I told him to leave. I told him I don't know him and I'm not going to introduce my husband to him, because, to me, he isn't my father. My stepfather is. Now some of my extended family is saying I was too harsh, that people make mistakes, and I should at least let him into my life, if not for me then for my future kids to know their grandfather. Stories number 48. PSA, the teen mom you're glaring at might not be a teen, or a mom. I'm directing this at older women exclusively, because this is the demographic that gives nasty and judgmental looks based on my experience. When I was 18, my mom gave birth to my youngest sister. My mom had me in her early 20s, and had my sister at 40. Since I was an adult, I spent a lot of time with my sister, taking her to the park, the mall, play centers, etc. People assumed I was her mom, and it's not a crazy assumption to make since my sister looks a lot like me. The problem was, I got some seriously nasty and judgmental stares and comments from older women. I remember one came up to me and said something like, "A little young to be having children, don't you think?" I'm now seeing this behavior with my other sister who is 30 years old and a mom of 3. My sister looks a lot younger than she is, she could pass as 20. When I've gone out with her and her kids, I can't even count the times I've spotted an older woman giving her nasty looks and whispering about her. I went up to a woman that was doing this and said, "She's 30 years old." She acted surprised and apologized, telling me that she thought my sister was a teenager. So I'm writing this PSA to everyone, but especially older women, 50 and older, to mind your own damn business. Even if you correctly spot a teen mom rather than a sister, aunt, or young-looking mom, it's still not your place to judge them. I'm getting to the point where I want to go up to these women and scream in their faces. I might just start doing that. Stories number 49. Aita for assuming a couple we met on holiday were swingers and abruptly cutting our conversation short and leaving. My GF and I are on holiday on a resort town. She met a nice woman about the same age as her, late 20s, and they got talking. We were having dinner with them later after they invited us out. The husband was nice at first, but I found him really creepy. He kept commenting on my girlfriend, saying she was really pretty, saying he'd never dated an Asian, my GF is Asian, and asking me what it was like dating an Asian girl, like how the fuck am I supposed to answer that? He kept complimenting her and asking me how I managed to get a girl like that. Meanwhile his wife was also complimenting me, she called me handsome and good-looking several times. At one point she was like, "I hate going out without my husband cause I always get hit on by strangers, but none of them are as handsome as you." WTF, right? She'd had a few wines at that point and was getting drunk, but still, there were other instances where she called me handsome. At another point she said, "My type is guys with black hair, I have black hair." At one point it was too much, I got a hunch they were swingers, I couldn't take. I faked a phone call and pretended we had to leave for an emergency. We left before the food had even arrived, I left money on the table and we left. My GF was furious when she found out I made up the emergency. I told these people were swingers, she thought I was crazy, we had a huge argument. Stories number 50. She's missing and I don't know how I'm supposed to cope. Can someone please help me? How are we supposed to get through this? She was reported missing immediately because it was so obvious that something very bad has happened. She was supposed to graduate from medical school in a few weeks. They found her shoes and her cell phone near the oceanside rocks. They have not found her. They have sent scuba divers into the ocean. They are checking CCTV, the entire nation is searching for her and she has just gone missing yesterday. She is in everyone's mouths and news stories, and so I guess it's true that everything that can be done is being done, but I don't know what we are supposed to do while we wait. Has anyone gone through it this? How do you cope in these days? Stories number 51. Aita for telling my flatmate her boyfriend can't basically live with us rent-free. Me, 19F, and my flatmate, 22F, have been living together for nearly a year. It was all fine until like 3 months ago when her boyfriend started staying over more. At first it was just weekends, now it's basically every night. He eats our food, uses our stuff like electric, gas etc. and takes up the bathroom forever, but he doesn't pay a single penny. I asked her if he could maybe pay towards bills or at least not be here every single night. She got super defensive and said I was being petty and jealous. Like babes what? Now things are awkward and she's super blunt with me. Am I actually being an asshole for not wanting a third roommate who pays nothing? Stories number 52. Been dating someone for a bit over a month, but I'm always footing the bill. Is that weird? I've been dating someone for a bit over a month, and we really get on well. We've been on 6 or 7 long, great dates. The only thing bothering me is that I end up paying for pretty much everything. She might get the occasional small thing, but she never really offers to split or cover anything. I earn enough, so it's not about the money, it's more about the gesture and balance. We're also planning a weekend trip soon, and while I'm excited, I'm a bit concerned that I'll end up covering the whole thing again. I don't want to set a precedent where I'm always footing the bill, especially when there's no offer or discussion. Am I right to feel a bit off about this? And how can I bring it up without sounding petty or causing a rift? I really like her and don't want this to come across the wrong way.